Welcome in, everyone, to Football Friday, presented by Football Addicts Anonymous. Mark is back.
It's been a minute.
Back on camera, anyways. Sometimes calling in there, but yeah, not sure if Chris is coming on. He's driving, but a lot of stuff to go through. Considering we didn't have a Monday show, I was at team camp with my alma mater, my high school football team, helping them out while I'm home here.
Go.
But yeah, we'll get through the NCAA NFL news, and then wrap up with our NFC West season preview, our last one before we get into training camp and our fantasy rankings shows coming up shortly, as well as preseason. Preseason right around the corner.
That means early Super Bowl picks, division pick winners.
Yeah, preseason will officially start next Thursday, I believe.
Isn't that crazy? It doesn't seem like it. It does not seem like it.
Yeah, I believe it's August 5th is the
Well, that same
Hall of Fame game.
August 4th marks exactly a month until Clemson and Georgia weekend.
Yeah, it'd be a good one.
I would say Marquette and just got to wait for basketball season.
Alrighty, let's get this rolling here with the PowerPoint. Then we'll actually go back. But so let's start off NCAA. We're gonna start off badly on both NCAA and NFL news, but yeah, legendary Florida State head coach Bobby Bowden. He has been diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer. His son said in a statement this past week. I mean, I don't have too much. I know what he did. I wasn't.
I mean, being older, having some years on you, double-digit years. I grew up watching the Seminoles. In Missouri, they were the primetime game, right? And they were the product back then. It was Nebraska. It was Florida State. At times, it was Miami. And so, I know he's had a lot of players under his tutelage, and I think a unique for me thing is when we both got our masters here at Georgia, we had one professor that actually was kind of like a leadership coach for him, bounced ideas off of him. This guy that was one of our professors also did it for Mark Few at Gonzaga, and just everything that you hear from Deion Sanders to Peter Work to Work Done to people that worked with him is he is the real deal. Like, he cared for his players, he cared for the university, and he tried to do it right at every step. No one's perfect in life, and so that's what I love about his story. I know he's older, and a lot of people don't realize what he meant to college football. His wins speak for itself. So,
yeah, I just thought it was kind of weird that they came right out and said it was terminal. Usually you just, all right, this person got diagnosed with this type of cancer or just cancer in general.
Right.
They, now they know, everyone knows.
And at 91, it might be one of those things where he doesn't necessarily want to do treatment, right? Like, it's exhausting at that age. I've got a long life. Let's just put it out there and live the moments that we have left.
Definitely. So let's move on here to a frustrating thing, I thought anyways. So the NCAA, I don't know if it was the NCAA necessarily that put it out there. I don't know who actually reported it, but during the 2020-2021 year, academic athletic year, the NCAA revenue dropped by more than 50% because of the pandemic.
And someone still got paid.
But NCAA president Mark Emmert, his salary still rose up to $2.9 million for last year. That just makes no sense.
So I don't even know where you want to dive in. You just tell me your feelings, or I can tell you why I think this happens.
Well, it's just another reason, showing how corrupt the NCAA is, and that it needs to be dissolved. Really, I mean.
Well, what I find funny and that I would argue with, I'm not an argument that I would present to anybody is, I was always a big fan, just like we talk, like you don't want to work in NCAA because of this reason. You want to be at the professional level. And I always thought I wanted to be at the NCAA level, and then I work a little bit in it, and I'm like, oh, this stuff is really as bad as what they say. My big point on this, not to talk for an hour, is the reason this happens is not even your athletic directors. It's not even your SEC commissioners. The people that are actually pulling these strings are the presidents of these universities, because what is happening with Mark Emmert being in office? These universities are making money. Michigan State's only getting hand slapped for the Larry Nassar issues. I know that Penn State, but I mean, really, when you look at Penn State, they could have got the death penalty with Sandusky. He's making he's lining these presidents and campuses with money and slapping North Carolina on the wrist as well with certain things. And he's a politician, right? Like, he's sitting in NCAA headquarters making this money, and the presidents are like, keep doing that. You look like a bad person, but we'll give you $2.9 million in monetary value. I mean, if you ask a lot of people, they probably would take that, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of bad stuff going on in the NCAA. You're right. That is one of the reasons why I don't want to work at the collegiate level. But yeah, that when that came out, it
was crazy, right? Like, it is certified. Like, here's my question to everybody. I don't know how many viewers we have. And this is what I asked in class when I was teaching classes like sports management, TA, intro to sports management. Like, if you're a CEO of any other company, I mean, pick a company, pick a phone company, Sprint, right? And you had like a sexual assault case like Michigan State or Penn State or the FBI scandal with basketball, would you still be the CEO of Sprint, or pick a restaurant, pick a Silicon Valley, Microsoft, or even a professional team? Like what happened with the Clippers? I mean, and that's a little different, but it's still, if you were those three big cases, you would not be the CEO of that company any longer. And I don't know anyone that would argue me and say, oh, you're wrong. Like, he wouldn't be in that chair anymore, but he's still in the chair because it's not really up to the mid-major schools, right? It's not up to the conference commissioners. It's these presidents that are like, line my pockets. And that's where people don't, like, when you get tradition and spirit and pride, that comes on campuses from athletics, and it's an intersection with education. And so these presidents are like, the model's working for us because UGA still, Jerry Moorhead's making, more than maybe the president of the United States. I think you can look it up. I think he made like 430 last year. Like, these presidents are making tons of money off of these teams. And so we're going to keep Mark Emmert, in his chair for a while. But it's coming down. It's going to come crumbling down. Trust me.
Yeah, That's why I think, we've seen that it's had to go through the court system in order to, like I said earlier, sort of start the dissolution of the NCAA. Because you can't, it would, if it didn't go through the courts and the legal process, then it would be almost impossible to change how the system currently works. So
according to in 2017, and no, it's just got updated in May 17th, 2021. Georgia Tech president and our president, Jerry Moorhead, have total compensation that exceeds $900,000. And so why wouldn't you want Mr. Emmert to stay in power if you're making that much money as a president of a university? Knowing that if your football team gets caught, look at Baylor, right? Like, it took a while for them to fire their president, even their football coach and their AD. And then they bounce back and they're at liberty, right? Like, why not keep this guy in office if he's lining my pockets?
Yeah. Well, I think that Mark Emmert NCAA issue transitions well into the biggest storyline going on in college sports and college football specifically right now, in that Oklahoma and Texas have both reached out to the SEC about coming over from the Big 12. And actually, I got a couple updates within the last day or so, even hours, because it's just constantly moving forward. And what I heard was that the SEC is expected, or those two schools are expected to announce their intent to the Big 12 within the next day or two, and that the SEC could send invitations to those schools in the coming week.
So I heard there's going to be a vote in the next 24 to 48 hours. With my expertise, just throwing out the NCAA, a couple years I've been a part of it as a student manager or graduate internship, it would be hard. It would be a hard sell for someone to convince me that Texas is a shoo-in. Like, I really do think there's going to be pushback from Texas A&M. Plus, they would have to give up the Longhorn Network. But with that said, I do think it's a possibility because even though they're making tons of money, they haven't been relevant since Vince Young. And now they have Steve Sarkisian in the saddle, and he's been in the SEC, right? I think OU is a definite shoo-in if the SEC really wants to add them. I think that if I was OU and I was the AD there, my push would be I'm going to join your conference, which is only going to make the SEC more money, but you have to put me in the East. And to me, you're automatically contending with Georgia and Florida for a championship each year. Then you add in, if you expand it to a 12-team conference, right? Like a 1 or 2 loss Oklahoma gets you into that picture if you're a part of the SEC, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys don't think that would be possible. Now, on the flip side, it could be a total power play here's the reason that Texas and Oklahoma are mad. When is the last time that they had multiple games in one season where they were on primetime TV? Oklahoma and Texas have been playing at noon most of their football games for the last 4 or 5 years because the SEC network, even the ACC network, is taking over, their TV deals. And so if this does happen, they will not join any sooner than, I would say the soonest they could join would be 2023, but I would really look at it at 2025. And I could easily see the SEC saying, yes, we'll take Oklahoma, and no, we do not want Texas. A&M does have a grandfather clause, whether it's written or not, as the only Texas team. Every state is a one-team state besides Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee, and they were all founders of the SEC. With that said, though, if you add someone like OU, I could see Vanderbilt saying bye, because Vanderbilt has already said they're tired of getting crushed. We're an academic school. They could go to another conference. Or if the teams are really going to expand to a 12-team playoff system, then this will be the first of one or two super leagues, maybe a third super league, if that makes sense. And if the SEC votes on both, then you're going to see Clemson and Notre Dame and all these schools. Notre Dame's going to have to join, if that makes sense. Or maybe Oklahoma and Texas, if the SEC says no, goes independent. That's actually an option, and then they can schedule any SEC, Pac-12, Big Ten team they want.
Yeah, I think the Oklahoma, the realignment within the SEC would be difficult, and I don't like what, as far as Georgia goes anyways, what the many have proposed is sliding Alabama into the East, which that would be very
Kirby Smart has too much pull, and Nick Saban. I mean, if anything, maybe the Auburn would slide over, but
I believe it would be both.
And A&M being in the West, it only makes sense that Oklahoma would join the East.
I believe a lot of the realignments that I've seen have both Auburn and Alabama moving to the East, just geographically. But
geographically, Oklahoma would make no sense in the West. Well, I mean, I'm sorry. Geographically, it would make sense in the West. I said that backwards.
Yeah, but I did see that vote thing, just like you said, Mark, and I saw that the predicted vote would be 13-1. Obviously, Texas A&M being the one.
Yeah. And what I find interesting in this whole debate, right? Like, I've had conversations besides you and Chris, is Oklahoma. Why would they go there? They'd be so bad. And I'm like, one, it's an elite program. And if you don't think Oklahoma's an elite program, look at the Heismans. Look at even though they haven't won a championship, I mean, we beat them in the Rose Bowl by a hand block, right? Is they would get more money, which would solidify everything that they're doing, right? And then it would bring in even more recruits. And my thing is it would bring more recruits on the defensive side of the ball. Okay, now I can go to Oklahoma and play against, if I'm a cornerback or a linebacker, and go against these people. And my thing that I argue with people, and they say, well, they would lose 2 games. I also think that would be true, and this will never happen. But if Georgia was ever like in the Big 12, right? Georgia wouldn't just go there and steamroll people for the same reason that Oklahoma's not going to steamroll, but they're not going to be bad either. Georgia doesn't have to prepare for these wide open offenses week in and week out, right? They know their SEC foes. SEC foes aren't playing Lane Kiffin and Mississippi State Pirate football, right? You're still the ground and pound. You get Alabama has kind of adopted. Nick Saban said we got to score more. But if you had to play every week preparing for a TCU or a Baylor, that gets exhausting. You have more injuries. They spread the field out, and you're susceptible to more losses. And so I hate those apples to oranges. Like, if Ohio State came down here to the SEC, they would lose a couple games. Well, SEC teams would too if they went to the Big 10 or the Big 12. Let's stop acting like, yes, from top to bottom, it is a tough conference. We tailgate better than any schools. But teams would lose games in either conferences, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with the Texas thing. The Texas, I don't think is up to the standards.
No, they're going to have 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, I think Texas would struggle, and they would fall into the Tennessee category, which was another thing that someone said about, Tennessee versus Texas. They would just be fighting the whole game of who is the actual UT.
Yeah, and who has a better orange burnt, like, my orange burnt orange is better than yours. But and those two schools I think are kind of the most, in my opinion, if I'm a commentator or an analyst, those two schools actually intrigue me the most moving forward because we all know Texas has the resources, right? Like they have ample resources, they just can't get out of their own way. And Tennessee, I think, had just hit it out of the park with their AD hire. His dad was an AD at Duke forever. His brother is coaching the Florida Gators basketball team. His sister is an AD at Duke as well. And I think he actually knows on the development side where Tennessee has been lacking. It's everything has been kept in family. We need more support. We need stability. And I think 5-10 years down the road, Tennessee is going to be another powerhouse. Just like Missouri is a sleeping giant if no one has been keeping up with what Missouri's done. They went 5-5 last year in the Duke's first year, Eli. And they just got a $30 million donation over the summer, breaking ground on a practice facility to match Georgia's. I mean, the conference is going, the East is getting tougher, is all I'm going to say. And so Georgia Kirby better keep up with what he's doing, but because people are coming after him.
I think that going back to the Texas thing, I think Oklahoma doesn't go without Texas, though. I think Oklahoma wants Texas to come with them.
Well, you have to have that Red River rivalry, shootout rivalry. And that's why I think it's a power play. Like, I think they're looking around and saying this TV deal has to get better. Otherwise, we're falling to the wayside like Pac-12.
Yeah, but I would actually I would rather Oklahoma and Cincinnati go together. I think Cincinnati's ready. UCF was, but I think they've kind of stepped back a little bit since they've had their championship. Yeah. But Cincinnati's been a constant force in the American, and I think they would be a good fit. But they're not in the conversation, so that's why the two questions I had was, I know a lot of people are asking this: is the Big 12 still alive if Oklahoma and Texas leave?
I don't think it evaporates unless they just want to rename it. But I think that you have Cincinnati, SMU, Houston, UCF you could call upon. And I will throw this out there. I think Nebraska, you would have a chance to bring Nebraska back. I think they really do want out of the Big Ten. I don't think it's went well for them. They have a new AD coming in. Scott Frost has been there. He played there when it was the Big 12. So I think you could try to lure them in. The downfall is if you lose those two schools, it's not as appealing. But let's say that I'm the commissioner of the Big 12. This would be how I keep Texas and Oklahoma. And people don't think about this. You have to get in front of things, right? Like, I would already be calling Notre Dame left and right, Nebraska, saying, please, dude, you guys have not had a good run in the Big Ten. Bring yourself back. We're keeping UT. We're keeping OU. And I would add them and bring back Cincinnati. Or not bring back, but add Cincinnati. Try to get Houston and add a couple teams. And so, let's say you can get 4 teams that don't want to be in their conferences anymore. And that's how you keep Texas and Oklahoma, if that makes sense. And I think those are some of the things that people don't talk about that have to be happening behind closed doors. If not, someone please give me a job, please.
Yeah, I think they would have to get – I think if both Oklahoma and Texas leave, I think the Big 12 would have to get both Cincinnati and UCF. I mean, obviously, Houston would make more sense geographically. Cincinnati – I would like to see Cincinnati in the Big Ten, actually. I think Cincinnati, Ohio State would be a fantastic.
You could go after Memphis, too. It's right there.
Yeah.
It is right there. Colorado State has been in talks before, but I still think you need someone a little bit bigger than that. And that's why I'm telling you, I think
Boise State was also in the conversation. Yeah.
I think Nebraska is the longest shot, but I'm not convinced that they wouldn't say no. Right? Like I don't think Colorado is coming back at all. Why couldn't you reach out to the UNLV? Like there's a lot of like Boise State. Geographically, none of this makes sense because of the almighty dollar, but there is a lot of people that you could call on and say, come on, come on.
Yeah.
I would try to convince Texas and OU that we're going to get Boise State, Nebraska, Cincinnati, and Memphis. I don't think Houston wants in there because Texas is right there and they want to make more. They want to be like Texas and all. Those would be the schools that I would go after wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that kind of already answered my other one was about other realignment. Definitely interesting to see what the first domino is, and obviously right now we only have Oklahoma, Texas in the picture, but we could see, the first realignment since I don't even remember when the other one was because I wasn't too big on college football.
The first big breakup was like the Big East in basketball because their schools that had football said, hey, we're going to go here, here, and here.
Yeah. And you already mentioned Notre Dame, too. I know Notre Dame would most likely have to join the ACC if this supposed SEC.
And if I was the ACC, I would pick up UCF. And not just because of their – like other things people have to consider is, yeah, they claim that national championship, but they have 80,000 students on camp. Like it is a huge school. It has basketball. It has the funds. I would try to pick it up. I would be, if I'm the ACC commissioner out of Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm calling Notre Dame saying, if Texas and OU join, you can't be independent anymore. There's no way.
I know Mark and I talked a lot. Chris, do you have any thoughts on Oklahoma, Texas joining?
Yeah, I mean, I was just letting you guys talk because you guys know a lot more about the NCAA with all the conferences and divisions and all that. So I was letting you guys talk, especially Mark there, because I feel like he knows a lot about it. But yeah, I mean, I'm all for whatever makes the best competition. I know, Mark, you were saying before about how some of the teams were mad about being or not being in the primetime games or whatever. Well, if there was better competition in those conferences and all that, they would be in those primetime games. So I'm all for whatever, like I said, whatever makes for the best TV.
With that said, I know I'm long-winded on this. I think you bring up the best point, Chris, out of all of us. And what people are thinking is, oh, man, how could they do this and that? Is I really do think the best competition that you're going to see on football or on TV is football 5 years from now, maybe 10 at the longest, is going to go and not be a part of the NCAA, if that makes sense. What the NCAA is going to keep, because these bowl games – the NCAA doesn't make any money off these bowl games. And some people don't realize that. They're Tostito, they're Verizon, they're Chick-fil-A, right? Things like that is to see the best competition is these super leagues. And I think Texas and Oklahoma are looking at this. Like, we're not going to really be attached to the NCAA anymore because name, images, and likeness is coming up. And so let's go to these big leagues. And you may have a league one day out west, if you want to do it geographical to save money and make even more money and to put better primetime games out on the west, is maybe you have, we're going to draw a line right here in Boise State and UNLV and Colorado and Utah and whatever it may be. Maybe Kansas State falls into that side, and then you're going to split the middle of America, and then you're going to split this side, but then you can play whoever, right? Like, you can schedule anybody during the regular season. You can have 8 games. And you can schedule out west and up north, and Ohio State and Alabama can schedule each other. And it's okay if you lose, because then we're going to have this big, 18-team playoff one day, right? And that's going to make for the best TV. And I see that's where it's going. And the NCAA is going to keep basketball. Maybe schools are going to drop down and say, I want to be 1AA because I'm not getting these payout games anymore. So please take care of it. And that's what the NCAA is going to do.
Yeah, one last thing. It's fine. Oklahoma, Texas, you can lead the Big 12. That is perfectly fine. You know why? Because Matt Campbell will take that and he will roll the rest of the Big 12, and Iowa State will be perennial Big 12 champions. As long as they can add another 2 schools to make it 12 schools once again. Otherwise, if they don't, I don't know what they would have to keep it to Big 12. They couldn't, there's already a Big 10. So,
I mean, in the famous words of Paul Feinbaum, which everybody loves, when this NIL happened, he said, this is the downfall of the NCAA. And so now these teams are going to dictate where they go and what they want to do. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah, and speaking of nil, I didn't put it on here, but I figured since talked about it, I might as well say it. USC's quarterback Keaton Slovis, he signed with, let me get it up here. It was Clutch Sports, which is the same agency that LeBron uses. So I love Keaton Slovis. Should be a very good season for USC this year. Anyways, on to NFL news. Like I said, we're starting NFL and NCAA off, both on bad notes. Chris, I know you definitely know about this. The Jets assistant head coach, Greg Knapp, he passed away this past weekend. Died from injuries suffered after being hit by a car while biking last Saturday, 58 years old. Coached a ton of superstars. Steve McNair, Michael Vick were 2 of them. I can't remember the rest of the list, but
he was there with Steve Young as a 49er. That's where he got his start and had such a good relationship with him that Steve Young, like when they drafted Wilson, Steve Young was like, you have to bring this guy in. He did wonders for me after I took over from Montana. And I hate it as a dad. I mean, you can hate it as a person, but it just sinks my heart. I feel for his family. And we moved from a biking community to Athens, which a lot of students bike and stuff, and it's just a car is bigger than a bike, and you don't win. And the only thing that I can say is I'm glad that what I read is the driver wasn't under any influences and cooperating with the investigation. And a conversation that my wife as a counselor and I had is the person that hit him is never going to be the same either. It's going to psychologically affect them the rest of their life. Just a terrible situation.
Yeah, obviously there's no good words to say about this whole situation because it's about a person losing their life. But I think it's even worse being that it was a freak accident and it wasn't like an illness that he had for a while and we all knew it was coming. It was a freak thing that could happen to anybody at any time. And I mean, I've read so much about like what he was on the field. Obviously, like you just said about how he coached Steve Young and McNair and whoever else. But I've also been reading about how much of a a family guy he was off the field. Like, he was so dedicated to his kids, his wife, everybody, and he was even like a friend and a father figure to some of the players too. So, yeah, this is a big loss for not only the Jets but the entire NFL and players like from generations. Because, as we've said, he's been in the league for however many years, probably 25 or so years at least. So, yeah, this affected a lot of people.
For sure. We're going to stick with the coaching route here. 2 coaches today, not fired, are out on their organizations. So, first off, first one reported today was Vikings offensive line coach / run game coordinator Rick Dennison. They are going to promote assistant offensive line coach Phil Rauscher to replace him. And then also just about an hour ago, I think it was, Patriots co-offensive line coach Cole Popovich also not going to coach this season with the Patriots. Carmen Bricolo will take full control of the offensive line. But both these guys not coaching with their teams this year because they don't want to get the vaccine. So, like a lot of people keep saying, they're most likely not going to be the last ones that this happens to. So.
I just think the whole situation's kind of stupid from both sides. I mean, obviously, like, if you don't want to get the vaccine, that's fine or whatever. But I get that the NFL is trying to incentivize people to get the vaccine with what they've been doing and with all this other stuff that's been going on in social media in regards to the vaccine in the NFL. But just like, I don't know, the fact that these 2 coaches, and like you said, Rusty, probably more to come, are not being able to coach because of this, I just think it's just kind of stupid to me.
Well, Rusty, you're going to go to law school, so I would ask you, borderline, is it unconstitutional?
No, like I said, because the reports have said they are out and not that they have been fired.
So are they going to give them an option to stay on remotely? Are they giving them a nice severance package? Like,
I have no clue.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously the NFL isn't requiring anyone to get it, but their COVID guidelines state that in order to essentially have full access of the facility as a tier 1 or tier 2 personnel, which every single coach falls into the tier 1 category, which is the most important people in the building.
Unconstitutional, but it's almost like it's like playing someone's hand. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to be around here, you got to get vaccinated.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why people don't do it. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, I wasn't planning on getting it until I had to go to Marquette this fall.
Right.
But again, it's just a shot. I understand if you have underlying conditions, that's a different story. But if you're a normal person, it's not that big of a deal. So if these guys are going to, forfeit the coach, that's their issue.
And I think here's my thing about this. I'm not on either side of the fence. I can see both sides, right? Like, I have empathy for both sides. And I, too, had to get mine to continue to work. And it was also my kids, But are the same standards going to be held for somebody like DeAndre Hopkins, who's worth millions of dollars and brings in fans? What if he blatantly just says, And he's adamant he doesn't want to. And I can understand it's your body, especially if you have the argument, I haven't been sick yet, and I've been around people with COVID. Like, that's the part of being the one thing that I'm scared of in America, and I served in the military for, is people's rights. So if you don't want to put something in your body just because you don't agree with it, like, that's what we're founded on. And we are making two sides of people. Like, I hope that they don't make us show proof one day, like take people's words for it, because there's nothing that says you have to or don't. And as an employer, the NFL can make their own rules, but I think it's going to come to a point like, okay, are we going to let this $30 million player in and not a coach? Like, there's going to be it's going to get interesting, I guess is a good word.
Yeah. And even, I mean, I had this line in a couple in like 30 seconds, but I'll just get to it now. Going off of that, the NFL did inform teams in a memo this week that they're going to have to forfeit games if their team has an outbreak and they can't get the game or games rescheduled during the new 18 game schedule. So, which I don't think that there will be any forfeitures. We saw last season it was tough, especially that Steelers-Ravens game that played on a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought the NFL did a good job last season of getting games rescheduled because of COVID. So I don't foresee any forfeitures coming up this season, especially with what the numbers that they're putting out, where the majority of teams are 85% or more vaccinated. So
I agree.
Yeah. Plus, they have that extra week this year to maneuver with. So if there are any cancellations of games, I don't think it'll be a problem to reschedule it. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be. I don't think in general there's going to be many outbreaks unless they. Well, I don't want to get too political with these things, but I think it'll depend on what vaccine they're getting, because we saw in baseball over the last couple of weeks with the Yankees. They're all vaccinated, but they still got an outbreak going. But they all have the Johnson & Johnson shot, which is the least protective one apparently. And so they had an outbreak going through their clubhouse this past week and a half. So, I mean,
of all the teams that have the money.
Yeah. So I guess it depends on what vaccine they really get to protect the spread of the virus or whatever. But yeah, I don't see it being a big problem for the NFL this year.
Hey, Chris, I got the Johnson & Johnson. It was plus the Yankees suck anyways, Chris.
I can't even say they don't this year because they do.
Weren't they just on a 4-game winning streak? Not to get sidetracked.
Yeah, but then they lost in extras to Boston last night.
Oh yeah.
All right. Next thing up on the NFL news docket here, Michael Kendricks finally had a resolution with his 2018 insider trading
securities.
So he was sentenced to 1 day in jail.
What's the point?
3 years probation and 300 hours of community service. And now he is free to resume his NFL career, which he does want to continue to play. I don't have offhand how old he is. I know he's 30-something now.
32, 33. I would be the first one to argue, like, some people will say, oh, it's another athlete getting off. I don't look at it this way because he was a lot younger back then, and he was trying to save money, if that makes sense. And the guy that was like his money manager called him and said, hey, do this to do that to grow your money off your first or second contract. And I really do think it went down that way. I mean, it ended up being $1.2 million, which is significant amount of money. But I don't think it's one of those like a white person who's already rich getting all these insider info like Phil Nicholson has. And I love Lefty. I like to watch him, funny guy. But this guy was just trying to do right with the contract that he had, and someone was helping him out. And he stood up and said, I didn't think of it at the time, and then this money started rolling around, and I was like, oh, I don't think this many people make this much money off of it. So is this right or wrong? I really do believe that at the time he was like, when he was given information, he didn't realize what it was going to do. And then he saw the money and was like, this is kind of sketchy. I really do think it's one of those types of things.
Yeah, I just thought it was weird what he got because, when the case originally came out, there were talks about major sentences because insider trading is such a big crime. I don't remember the exact, but I know it was probably at least 5 years in prison.
But I think the guy that gave him the information was the one that got a lot of time. Because I also think he gave information to like other people, whether they were players or just people that had money to trade, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was like, since Kendricks was kind of like a puppet of the sorts, it was the puppet master that really got the bad end of the deal there. But yeah, what is one day in jail really going to teach him? Like, I really don't think that there was any point to having any jail time if it was going to only be one day.
Right. Well, you can be on probation. You can say that. But I think, and what I read from this whole thing was he got a lot of letters across the NFL, even from people that, weren't his current teammates and other coaches and people from the NFL wrote a lot of recommendation letters. Like, I don't think he called this guy and was like, give me insider trading, please. It was one of those things that kind of fell on his lap. He'd never been in trouble before.
Yeah. He's always been a good person as far as I knew. Definitely a good player. Please, Michael, come back to the Eagles. We need linebackers. So we'll have to see how his market pans out coming off the sentence. I'm not sure exactly when that sentence got handed down, so I don't know when his one day in jail, if it already occurred or not. I don't know. But I'm sure he will have a market, even being a little bit over 30. He still is solid, a solid linebacker. So next up, ESPN. They have agreed to a partnership with Peyton Manning and his production company, Omaha Productions, for the next 3 NFL seasons. They will have 10 Monday Night Football megacasts per year on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus, and those megacasts will be headlined by the Manning brothers, Peyton and Eli. I don't know why Cooper's not involved. He's on their other show.
He's got to worry about
He's always the forgotten brother.
He's got to worry about his son's recruiting. All I have to say about this, and I'm long-winded. I'm not going to be long-winded on this. I'm excited. Peyton Manning is hilarious. If you've never tuned into him, you need to. I'm excited about this.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch Peyton Manning do a broadcast because not only is he funny, like Mark just said, but he's one of the most brilliant football minds that there ever has been. So I think it'll be even better than when Tony Romo's doing the games. Like, I'm amazed at how good Tony Romo is when he calls out the plays before they happen and all that other stuff. But I think Peyton Manning will do it times 10. Like, it'll just be so amazing watching Peyton Manning do these games.
And 2 weeks ago, I may or may not have met Archie Manning, Kirby Smart, and our new offensive lineman from the former head coach of Mississippi at All Good Lounge one night on a recruiting trip. Just saying, Archie Manning was hilarious.
Yeah, I'm just not sure about Eli.
I bet.
Eli's pretty quiet. So, I mean, I know Eli's grown his Twitter game the last couple of years he's been out of the league. But we'll have to see how
I think his brother will bring out the best in him, right? Like, his brother's got to bring out the best in him.
Especially now, I mean.
I'm kind of surprised, though, that he's able to do this, though, because isn't he still technically under contract with the Giants with that other job that he's doing with them?
I wonder if he got out of that. I wonder if he just said, I don't know. That's a good question.
Well, he's not doing any on-field stuff though. It's fan engagement. So he doesn't have to be in the building every day. So, all right, we have training camp, gentlemen. It has begun. The Steelers, Cowboys, and Bucks all started reporting this week. Steelers and Cowboys, the first ones to report.
The Bucks just won a championship.
Because the Steelers and Cowboys are playing in the Hall of Fame game, the first preseason game this year.
Yes, they are.
August 5th. Also on Tuesday, the Ravens, Bills, Jets, and Bucks rookies all reported to training camp. Not sure why those were the teams, but I don't know. Every team has different camp schedules, so. I already went over that. Tom Brady. We'll talk about Tom Brady even more here in a little bit, but his trainer, Alex Guerrero, famous Alex Guerrero, for butting heads with the Patriots, getting locked out of their facility. He said he expects Tom Brady to play at least 2 more years to fulfill Brady's wish of playing until he's 45 years old. Which brings into question, when we were doing the NFC South preview, Chris, and we talked about Kyle Trask, we're like, Brady just keep, we had fun with saying Brady was going to keep playing and he would play out Kyle Trask's rookie contract. But now it could be real. Like,
as long as he doesn't get injured, we'll see what would stop him. Does that make sense? Like, what's going to stop him?
No, but not even injury is going to stop him. He apparently played this whole last season with a torn MCL or whatever. So not even an injury is going to stop him.
I guess you're right. I mean, I can't say you're wrong. I mean, I understand.
Because if he plays this year and then 2 more after that, that is the first 3 out of 4 years of Kyle Trask's rookie contract.
Okay.
The Bucks would have 1 season to show what Kyle
let me stop you there. Name the quarterbacks that are at the top of the 3 top quarterbacks in the league, in your opinion. Tell me. I already know who they are. Is it not Brady?
Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes.
They all 3 have something in common, don't they? They all set behind somebody. And even though he's going to play, I still think you find multiple snaps for him to show you what he can do. Does that make sense? I think you might end up with a really good quarterback who's learning under Brady. And okay, you give him snaps. Brady goes off in the sunset. You have 1 year, and to me, as a GM or coach, that shows you show me what you can do in 1 year. That doesn't mean that you're not going to draft someone else behind Trask either. But I think it's a perfect situation to be in as a coach from a coaching standpoint.
Well, that's the issue though. Brady's never been a mentor. He does not like.
But I don't think that he has to like take him under his wing. Like, wouldn't Trask learn and observe? Like, I'm a big believer in you learn by examples. Like, I don't need you having my arm around me. I'm gonna learn what you do really well. I'm gonna see your eating habits. I'm gonna see when you get to the facility. You're in the quarterback room. I'm writing down notes on whatever Brady says about this defense.
Brady will be like, Blaine, go teach Kyle something.
Pretty much.
So then the underlying story when Kyle Trask is a superstar is that Blaine Gabbert was his mentor.
Now, the one thing that I guess the other flip side is, does Trask want to? I mean, anybody can ask for a trade nowadays. So you could trade Trask in 2 years. You trade Trask next year if you wanted to.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could see this being like a Brett Favre type situation where he was on Atlanta for a year and then they traded him. Trask could have a similar situation. Not saying he's going to turn into Favre, but like I can see him sitting there for a year and then, yeah, Garoppolo too. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel bad for Trask, especially because like Rusty, I know you especially like Trask coming out of the draft. I was excited to maybe get to see him, but then he got drafted to the Bucs, and who knows when he's going to play.
I'm telling you, without Pittman, with weird receivers I've never heard of at Florida, we were 50-yard line watching Trask. The dude can play some football, man.
Yeah.
You have to go to the right system. I don't care who you are. You have to find the right system in the NFL. Ask Chris Carter, ask some people that were in bad situations and went to good situations, but he's got everything. He's got the size, he's got the arm, he looked great in the pocket. To me, he can take a hit.
I think the other issue that Trask could have whenever he finally does start, especially if it's for the Bucs, is
rust. He's gonna have some rust.
Does Brady and Arians leave at the same time?
You're right. Yeah, I didn't think about that. You could get real comfortable because Arians is older. He came out of retirement, I think, knowing that he was going to get Brady. And
yeah, if he plays 3 more years, I believe Arians would be somewhere in the range of 72.
But would you be comfortable thinking Byron Leftwich is going to maybe be that top candidate, and maybe they build, the next Tampa Bay Buccaneers era?
Yeah, I mean, if they can keep him,
right, because
he's going. Arians has talked him up.
People are going to want him. You're right. You're 100% right. Maybe the Steelers find a way to get Trask.
I wanted that to happen, and the Steelers haven't drafted a freaking quarterback.
I can see him in some black and gold easily.
Well, like I said, the Steelers haven't freaking drafted a quarterback last 2 years that I've wanted.
Yeah, but instead they went and got Dwayne Haskins.
They're just going to make you mad, trust me.
Well, apparently is going to be the third quarterback, and they're going to let Josh Dobbs go. So. All right. The Bucs received their Super Bowl rings this week. Here they are. 319 total diamonds on the top here.
Yo, that's nice.
And the final score, 31-9 over the Chiefs.
That is a good-looking ring, y'all.
They have their 4 scores from the playoffs: 31-21 over Washington, 30-20 over New Orleans, 31-26.
Can it screw off? The top?
It pops off.
Man, I like that.
Maybe it does. Maybe it does twist. I don't know.
Well, the top comes off is what I guess meant.
Yeah, and it says this historic thing right here. I had to zoom in on my phone to read it, and it essentially says they made history being the first ever team to win at their home stadium, Raymond James Stadium. So
Hey, I don't know of any other ring that pops off like this. This is nice.
I want to know. What I want to know is this stadium?
Oh, it's carved in there.
Is it depth?
100%. 100% that you can put like a pinky or something in there. 100%. Like this,
I want to know.
this was innovating, and if you and I both have seen his recent picture where the only rings are his thumbs that he needs, and it might be the best looking ring he has. I love that they put 319. I love those little, charades they put in their rings. 319 diamonds, 31-9. I love when teams do that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find
the picture
of Brady with his rings, because it literally was just up on my Twitter feed a little bit ago.
I actually just saw it. You gotta go to Instagram.
I just gotta see who it's from.
It's right here. Mine's not gonna.
It was literally just right here. I don't remember who had it on though.
It's balling. It makes me rethink the GOAT of all time might not be Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But Michael Jordan didn't lose in a finals game, so I'm going to stick with Jordan.
Yeah, I don't know who had it on. I don't know where it went. So
Sports Center Instagram.
Look at that, Dallas Cowboys Tom Brady.
Oh my gosh. McDavid Tom. Oh gosh.
I don't know. We're just not gonna find it. It's fine. I don't know what happened to Chris.
It was a balling picture, I'm telling you. Go to your Instagram, Sports Center.
That's fine. This is the FAA one, but that's fine.
There it is. I told you. Is that not just a GOAT? Look at that thing, son. Dang.
Oh, there's him getting the
with Leftwich. Shady comes into the picture, which I find funny.
Needs 3 more to fill out the hands.
Ain't happening.
He will play 3 more years.
It ain't happening unless the NFL hands it to him.
Like they did last year.
I'm just saying that the Jaguars should have been in a Super Bowl. I'm just going to throw that out there, but it wouldn't have made the NFL a lot of money. Let's move on.
All right. So, the Packers situation. Even worse now.
Devontae Adams.
The Packers apparently offered quarterback Aaron Rodgers a 2-year extension this summer that would have made him the highest paid player and quarterback. I should have said that the other way, quarterback and player, and tied him to the Packers for the next 5 years, most likely ending his career in Green Bay. He declined that, obviously.
Just do the Mutombo wave.
And the long-term talks have also deteriorated with number 1 wide receiver Devontae Adams. So, and he's a free agent next offseason.
To me, that's not a surprise, because if you go back in our archives or the ESPN archives, Devontae Adams specifically said, "I will not make a decision unless it's in line with Aaron Rodgers." You guys can quote me and look it up. But he said, "That's my guy. And this organization needs to roll with my guy.
Yeah, I don't blame them. So yeah, they could be looking at trading Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams leaving in free agency next offseason.
Which makes them really relevant, right?
Yeah. So now that we're getting into training camp, teams are starting to utilize the non-football injury, physically unable to perform, and reserve COVID lists. Players on these right now, that just a couple anyways. I know there's a lot more, but NFI list, Jags undrafted free agent linebacker Dylan Moses. That's because of a knee injury at Alabama. Jet safety Marcus May and defensive end Vinny Curry. I really wanted to see what Chris's thoughts were on Marcus May being on NFI to start training camp. But like I said, I don't know what happened to Chris. So
We miss you.
On the PUP list for the Cowboys, wide receiver Amari Cooper, that's an ankle. Defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence, that's a back. Defensive tackle Tristan Hill, a knee, and kicker Greg Zuerlein, that is also a back injury.
Where is Zuerlein now?
The Cowboys.
Gotcha.
Yeah, all those guys are the Cowboys. For the Giants, running back Saquon Barkley, he's coming off ACL injury last year. Tight end Kyle Rudolph coming off foot surgery. Offensive tackle Matt Peart, it's a back injury. Linebacker O'Shane Zimenez, hamstring. And rookie corner Aaron Robinson, that's a core muscle issue. The Patriots, they put corner Stephon Gilmore on the PUP list. Ravens did the same with offensive tackle Ronnie Stanley coming off his ACL injury. And then the Jets also placed defensive tackle Quinnen Williams on the PUP list because of his foot issue. And then on the reserve COVID list, Giants first round wide receiver Kadarius Toney, he tested positive. So did Jags quarterback Jake Luton. The Jags also placed 2020 first round corner CJ Henderson on the COVID list. And the Bucks placed starting safety Jordan Whitehead on the COVID list, and he will miss the start of training camp because of that.
Chris.
Right after I get done talking about the Jets players.
He must have been in the facility.
No, Chris, I was just talking about the NFI, the PUP, and the COVID lists, and that a couple of Jets were on there. Specifically, Marcus May on the NFI list, as well as Vinny Curry.
I don't know what happened with Curry, but I wonder if the Marcus May thing has anything to do with him not being extended or whatever.
I don't know. And then also Quinnen Williams is starting camp on the PUP list because of his foot issue.
Oh, well.
Couple of veteran news. I was confused when this happened, but the Steelers, their linebacker Vince Williams, he retired this week. The reason I was confused, because they re-signed him this offseason. He's not that old, but I do agree it was time for Vince Williams. He was probably the slowest inside linebacker in the league. But, I mean, he was an old school linebacker. He is big, bulky, and a two-down run stuffer. That's what Vince Williams was. So.
Yeah, that was just very odd timing for him, though, because it was right before training camp and all that. So, I don't know, maybe he figured that he wasn't going to make the team anyway or something. Who knows?
Well, Mark can probably say something about this, that 30-something-year-old going into training camp feeling like he can't perform.
Hey, you be quiet. I'm trying to computer too. I can tell you when I felt a big decline. I was actually playing for a traveling Navy basketball team overseas. And about 30 to my 31 year, if you're not investing millions of dollars in your body, it's like a straight decline. Boom.
Like
Your
I said,
mind will still think like you're 23 and you can get there, and then some 25-year-old will run past you, and you're like, "What? Am I that slow? What's going on?"
like I said, ever since I've known and watched Vince Williams on the field, he's always been super slow. And like I said before, he was built as an old school linebacker when he came into the league in the late 2000s. And he carved out a very good career, being a former 6th-round pick. So,
Can we just get some old film? I haven't seen Harrison working out. Gosh darn, I haven't seen James Harrison working out in a while, and I just missed his workout videos, y'all. That dude is a straight beast.
yeah.
He's his own breed. There's nobody like him.
A couple of vets coming back from surgery. Former Bengals defensive tackle Geno Atkins and former Panthers defensive tackle Kawan Short. Atkins had rotator cuff surgery. Short had general shoulder surgery. So both having shoulder surgeries. I believe both should be signing relatively soon with teams. Both have interest. They're similar players. Again, like I said, we're going to talk vets. So both guys,
One's a little bit younger.
In their low 30s. Looking to, I think Atkins is the better player. But
yeah.
It's gonna be weird seeing him not in
Georgia. He's a Georgia guy.
It's gonna be weird seeing him not in a Bengals uniform. So another defensive tackle news. We're gonna go through some injuries here. The Vikings defensive tackle Michael Pierce, he suffered a calf injury. Probably not going to be able to start camp on time. I would assume he would be placed on the NFI list, considering he injured it working out. So, and the big one, or not the big one, but the second biggest one, the Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas, he is expected to miss the start of the season, probably the first month or so, after undergoing ankle surgery last month. 4 months is the recommended recovery timeline, and the Saints could be working out some receivers soon. And Chris, this just, extrapolates, or, whatever, I don't know what word to use, but, it just expands the Saints issues that we've been talking about ever since we did our NFC South show.
Mm-hmm.
Could they finish below the Falcons?
No, their defense is still good enough to carry them.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I think that they could still at least get a winning record. Playoffs, I'm not sure about now, but I think they could still at least get a winning record. But yeah, like you said, Rusty, having or not having Thomas for the first quarter of the season is a big hit, although it could also be a little bit of a blessing in disguise, because I feel like, not that they really had him last year a lot, but now it gives whoever the starting quarterback will be the chance to try out the other receivers and see if he can kind of build some chemistry with the other guys. And it gives Traquan Smith, I don't think he's a number one, obviously, but it gives him a chance to show what he's got as the premier receiver in first quarter of the season.
Like I said, the wide receiver depth is so thin with New Orleans, just like the linebacker depth is. And I remember saying this on the NFC South show that if Michael Thomas got hurt, they were screwed. Alvin Kamara will have to become how it's going to have to go. Because like you said, Traquan Smith is not a number one receiver.
100% agree with that statement. He has to. Kamara.
And looking at their first 4 games, they could go 1-3. They really could.
I'm not lying to you guys. I really think they could be the last team in the division.
Because, they host the Packers week 1. The issue with that, obviously, we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be there.
Might not, or Devontae Adams at this point might not play either. So,
he'll play. He just might not show up to camp one time. But like I said, the Panthers are going to beat them week 2 anyways, regardless of Michael Thomas or not. And then they have to go to New England against that defense. That defense is going to shut whoever is at quarterback down. And then, Cam might just do enough to beat them in Foxborough. Then they host the Giants. So that's the guaranteed win I have in their first 4 without Michael Thomas. Which even that, though, is not –
I still think that they can – I know you're a Panther. I know I'm a Saints fan, so we're never going to agree on this, but I think that the Saints can win that game against Carolina.
I think that Sean Payton is a very competent coach. I think he gets a little too much media attention because I think Mike Tomlin should get as much as he does. If you look at their records, they're exactly the same, but Tomlin doesn't get put on the pedestal. I've said this. But they have a culture down there. I think he gets fun with his game plan. I think he might even get more fun without Drew Brees. But I actually think that is the hardest division to depict. I wasn't on the show, and so I'm not going to drag it on. But I think after the Buccaneers, I think it's a toss-up each week of how those 3 other teams play. I really do. Because Matt Ryan is seasoned. He's lost Julio, but you just don't know if they get a better culture. I think that what Panthers are doing, it's unheard of what they've done with Matt Rule, but I think it's a changed year. I think they could find themselves at the bottom of the pile. I really do.
Falcons' defense is just trash, so that's why Chris.
But you just don't know if they're going to score lights out. What if they do? I don't think they have the guns on offense to score lights out. But.
All right. So, like I said, Michael Thomas is the second biggest injury. The biggest one that happened this week, Rams running back Cam Akers. He suffered a torn Achilles while working out. He is done for the year. Their depth, which we'll talk about when we get to the NFC West preview. Depth chart includes Darrell Henderson, who is the new starter now, Raymond Calais, and their rookie Jake Funk. Free agent running backs right now, Adrian Peterson, Duke Johnson, Deion Lewis, LaShawn McCoy, Le'Veon Bell. I think Le'Veon would be a fantastic fit for them.
Well, there's another guy that you didn't mention yet that I think would be a perfect fit because it would be a reunion.
Exactly what you're going to say.
Oh, my gosh. Is he TG3?
Bring him back.
Who? Oh, yeah.
I only have a dog named after him.
I didn't actually think you were going to say him, even though that makes sense. But I thought
why don't we bring back Michael Dickerson, too? Jeez. I'm just kidding.
I thought you were going to say your old friend, Mr. Gore.
Oh, my gosh. Please don't. They will. They're going to do – now that you said that, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Adrian Peterson. I mean, he hasn't really slowed down too much when he was with Washington. So I mean, he just got beat out by Antonio Gibson. That was the only issue. I mean,
Well, my question is, what do you think the need is? Do you need an every down back? Or does my man offense more like a counter attack? And we already know that he throws out to running backs. So if you need an everyday down back, I actually think, even though he's old, Adrian Peterson is a great fit. But you have to get a catching back. And
well,
go ahead.
yeah, well, I mean, Darrell Henderson can do that. Cam Akers is definitely better at catching the ball, but
Why does it keep?
Raymond Calais could be that guy. It's just he's never been a big offense guy. He's been a returner most of his short career when he was with the Cardinals and now the Rams. But I like Jake Funk. Jake Funk coming out of Maryland this year, 6th round pick.
Well, there's a lot of people out there, right, that are big names. You see LaShawn McCoy, he's picking up a ring and didn't do much. Like, you could go in that direction, right, because he was a handoff and catch back. And then you talk about Le'Veon Bell. Well, was he in the right system? So my question with the Rams is what are we really looking for? If you're looking for somebody to hand it off and that has strength, I still think Adrian Peterson fits that mold, and I think it's easier to find somebody that can catch the ball out of the backfield. Does that make sense?
I agree. If you wanted to reunite Matt Stafford and Todd Gurley, do it. But if you're going to do that, sign Duke Johnson at the same time.
Which I guess we'll get to. We opened up a can of worms without getting to the can of worms.
The Niners handing out big money. They signed linebacker Fred Warner to a 5-year, $95 million extension, $40 million guaranteed.
Dang.
The highest paid inside linebacker, Darius Leonard, is the next inside backer up for the next extension.
Well, I think he'll exceed that. The report that I read was he's going to exceed that.
Yeah, Fred Warner, interesting 3rd-round pick. BYU, I believe. So, massive pay raise for a former 3rd-round pick.
Yep. Can't complain.
Yeah, him and Darius Leonard are definitely the best 2 inside linebackers in the league right now.
People, I think, forget that it's a craft, right? Like you can be the best mechanic in your town. You can be the teacher of the year, right? Well, these are the guys that are the best at what they do, and they're getting paid.
Some free agency signings here. The first one I was very excited about when it came across. The Steelers, they signed linebacker Melvin Ingram to a 1-year deal. He had interest from the Chiefs and the Dolphins as well. But yeah, I was super hyped with Melvin Ingram coming to Pittsburgh. I think that's a good fit. It will help alleviate the Bud Dupree departure. I was kind of confused because I thought they were all in on letting Alex Highsmith take the reins opposite of TJ Watt. But we still have yet to see what Ingram's role will be, if he's going to be the starter or if he's going to just be in the 3-man rotation with him, Watt, and Highsmith.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what he's probably better suited for at this point. Obviously, he's been a great linebacker in his career with the Chargers, but he's a little on the older side now, and I mean, I feel like there's a reason why it took him this long to find a new home in the NFL. So, I don't think that he has what it takes to be the every down starting linebacker. Especially, too, like you said, the Steelers have somebody in-house already that they believe in. And I think Ingram's kind of just there for the rotational depth piece.
Alex Highsmith, another former third-round pick. He comes out of Charlotte, though. He's a 49er at heart. The Chiefs, they re-signed free agent pass rusher Alex Okafor to a one-year deal. Will help them in their need to get pass rush. For
Third year straight, they signed him to a one-year deal, if I'm wrong.
I believe so, yeah. I know it's definitely 2 years in a row. One-year deal. But he just keeps going back to Spags. So
I mean, let's face it, if they don't have any injuries, the Chiefs are still really good. God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in the rotation with Frank Clark, and I can't think of who the other edge is, but
They really are built.
The Dolphins, they signed former Seahawks linebacker Shaquem Griffin to a one-year deal. Going to help them on special teams. I highly doubt he gets much on defense, considering how built they are at linebacker. But definitely Shaquem Griffin will help the Dolphins on special teams like he did in Seattle. And good for him. Keeps getting jobs.
I agree. I think it's, that's a good pickup in my mind. I don't care if he just plays special teams. Like, we talked about what football is. It's best field position, right? You have to have players that are really – it's like being a basketball coach, you have to have a really good shooter. You have to have a really good rebounder, or someone that just can guard somebody and get down and doesn't care about scoring. This guy fits what they're doing moving forward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like I said, good for him getting jobs with still having only one hand. So
wouldn't you love to be in the league getting jobs, right?
Some visits and workouts here to end NFL news. So free agent linebacker Quan Alexander, he's visited with the Saints, who he played for last year. Chris, you hoping he re-signs?
Yeah, at this point, anybody will help. Like you said, the linebacker depth for the Saints is horrendous, but maybe they should try him out at receiver, see how that works first, and then then maybe sign him as a linebacker.
Well, you could call Tim Tebow. He might be able to line back for you guys. I'm just kidding.
The Bengals, they hosted Chiefs center Austin Reiter for a visit. I think that would be a fantastic signing for Cincinnati, getting them some center depth as well as even more protection for Joey B up there. The Cowboys, they hosted safety Malik Hooker for a visit. This is his second visit in Dallas. They said that he's most likely going to sign if everything goes well. Cowboys have an obvious need at safety, so getting a former first-round pick should help anyways. And a couple workouts here. The Giants, they worked out running back / returner Tyler Ervin. I can't think off the top of my head who their returners are, but Tyler Ervin, one of the better ones in the league, especially kick returner. I don't think he returns punts, but I know he definitely returns kicks, and is a good third down change of pace back if you need him on offense, like he was for the Packers.
I think the Giants actually might surprise some people this year.
Hey, if Barkley could stay healthy, I think that they'll have a pretty good offense. But that also goes for Kenny Galladay too. But
their defense is going to be. But I actually think, I wish I was on those shows, and I wasn't able to be. And I won't. It's not a long thing. I just think that if he can get some protection up front, they're going to be able to score points. Does that make sense? I don't know what they're going to be able to do stopping points, but I think you could see a better version under center than you've ever seen with people protecting them. They're rookie from UGA got better over the season. I think it could be a better football team. Doesn't mean that they're going to win the division or anything, but they could steal some games.
Yeah.
Defense is pretty solid for New York, especially how they played down the stretch last year. Offense is a different story,
but that, I guess that's what I'm saying is I think their offense might be better, if that makes sense. I'm not saying it's going to be world beaters, but they could steal some games here and there depending on the protection. And if you get a good returner, your field position is better, right?
Yeah. The last workout here, the Vikings, they worked out Jags wide receiver D.D. Westbrook. Nothing really to say about that. All right. Let's finally get into our NFC West season preview. We're starting with Mark's Rams.
Oh, gosh.
So, Mark, would you like to go or do the schedule, get our records, then we'll do the depth chart, fantasy aspects?
I'll just chime in. You guys, we're only going to put 2 records up there, so
All right.
I'll just interject. I guarantee you that I probably will agree with most picks. My winner might be different than you guys, but let's roll. I'm gonna let you guys roll with this.
All right. So I have the Rams going 12-5, 4-2 in the division. Week 1 is Sunday Night Football.
Yes, sir.
Against the Bears at home. It is the return, or the first time fans are going to be in SoFi Stadium. So they will have that rocking in LA. That's a win. I have them beating Indianapolis in Indianapolis week 2. I don't think Carson Wentz is going to be up to speed at that point. So week 3 is a loss. That is home, but it is against the defending Super Bowl champs. I don't think they're going to win that one. They beat the Cardinals week 4. Then they go to Seattle. That's a loss on Thursday Night Football.
I don't like the turnaround either. I don't like that turnaround.
They beat the Giants in East Rutherford. Come home, they beat the Lions. The Matthew Stafford revenge game. Well, they're going to put up 50 points on the Lions that day. That's SoFi. They go to the Texans. That's a win. Host the Titans. That is a win. That is Sunday Night Football once again. Monday Night Football at the Niners. That's a loss. So they go into bye week 11 at 7-3, pretty solid. Having hopes still of probably the number 1 seed.
I think they also trade. I think they make a trade depending on if that makes sense. You can take it or leave it. I think they make 1 trade this season depending on their record. They don't have any first. We know they don't have any first rounders, and so depending on how they played up to this point is going to determine the trade deadline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, buying or selling. I wasn't sure.
You see what I'm like? We're going to get some things off the books and try to get some draft picks, or they're going to – I really believe the Rams will throw they might sell their entire future for even 5 years after no first-rounders to say that we're going to try to get Matthew Stafford in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah,
Like, I think they'll give away the future even more.
Yeah, that's what they've been doing.
And you have that stadium and you're trying to make money out of the pandemic. So you better be, I guess what I'm agreeing with you is you better be 7-3. Otherwise, I think they're going to make a trade. It may be something small to set them up, or they could be sellers, if that makes sense. Everybody but Aaron Donald is on the books. Like they might even trade Matthew Stafford if it's not going well. Like, who wants Matthew Stafford at this point? Let's say that you're 500. I could see them selling.
Not for another 3 first-round picks.
No, but you get my drift.
All right, coming out of the bye, I have them going to Green Bay. That is a loss, obviously.
As long as Aaron Rodgers is quarterback.
Matthew Stafford just can't beat Rodgers in Green Bay. Can't beat Rodgers, period, actually. He has, I believe. I'm not sure what their record is, but they host the Jags. That is a win. They win in Arizona on Monday Night Football.
I don't agree with that one.
They beat the Seahawks week 15, beat the Vikings in Minnesota, and then they lose in Baltimore. They beat the Niners week 18. 12-5, 4-2.
I agree with that. I think they go 1-1 with the Cardinals.
My key games, week 1, just because it's Sunday night. Week 2 at the Colts. I think that's a massive win against a playoff team. Bucks is a tough game, but I have them losing. I think all 6 of their NFC West games are pretty huge. And then the only other ones, at Seattle week 5, that's Thursday Night Football. I don't have the times for the week 7 Lions game or the week 10 Niners game. I think the Titans, week 9, that's a big one. Again, on Sunday night. Packers game is also massive at Lambeau. So I think those are and then, the Ravens game in Baltimore as well.
I mean, I'm piggybacking off you. I think they go 11-5.
11-6.
11-6. Sorry. Yeah.
Um,
I think they go 11-6.
Yeah, I think I have them around 500 in my key games. I didn't actually count, but Chris, go ahead. Your Rams prediction.
Well, I did my picks before the show started, so I knew what to say and stuff. So I just don't remember exactly who I picked them to beat, but I had the same record as you, 12-5. But I do know that I had them going 3-3 in the division, winning all 3 home games and losing all 3 away. And then I believe I had them losing to the Titans and the Packers. I think that was my 5 losses for them. But yeah, so like you said, though, all 6 of their division games are huge games because I think that the NFC West is quite possibly the toughest division in all of football. So all those games are going to be important. And I think that's also why I don't think anybody's going to really have a large lead in the division, especially when it comes to the head-to-head games. But yeah, I think they go 12-5 And I think it comes down to the last week of the season to see who wins this division.
And that's what as a fan or the NFL would want, right? Like it's been like that before, and it's really exciting to see the last game. I would say they go 1-1 against Arizona. I think Arizona has some good upgrades. I think that someone has to when I say someone, their quarterback has to take a leap forward. And I would actually say that a game, even if Aaron Rodgers is playing, I think that that's a game that they actually need to win because that is his best friend as a head coach. And they didn't win last year in Green Bay. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think that's a game that maybe he circles on the calendar and they really prepare for. And that's a game, I'm not saying that they're going to win it. I think it's a game that they could still. And the thing about the Rams is they always drop a game like they look really good, right? As a fan, they look really good from a coaching standpoint. They look good under center. And they always have one game where it's like, did they all go out on West Hollywood Boulevard and do something to forget what they were doing? And they drop a game that everybody goes, well, crap, what is this team about? And then they bounce back again. And so those are like the Thursday night games. I don't like their turnaround. They've never been good in turnaround games. And we're only one game off. But would I be surprised if they only won 10 games? No, because of the division they play in, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, are you referring to the game last year against the Jets?
I mean, we don't really have to talk about it, but do you want to talk about it? I mean, and that makes it those games where they do go out east, like, do you pick them?
Yeah, I don't know. Depends.
I would be shocked if they didn't win 10 games. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And I would be shocked if they won 12. Like 12 games is great. That means that there was no injuries. There were no complications in their game plan. So I wouldn't be surprised if they won 10 games.
It depends on who is at MetLife, right, Chris?
Yeah, but also side note, I had made my my predictions prior to the Cam Akers injury. So if they don't get that figured out, I could see them going down to 9 or 10 wins. But depending on who they sign or if they don't sign anybody and this other guy that they have actually works out, then yeah. But yeah, I don't know.
Everybody in this division might win 9 games. That's weird. That's just.
I think Darrell Henderson is capable, and then they sign a running back before preseason's over, or even right before the season starts when vets are going to get cut.
Well, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but it kind of just a light bulb kind of just went off in my head. Rusty, do you think that Kerryon Johnson actually stays on the Eagles, or do you think he's going to be a roster cut?
I'm not sure. Like I said, I think it's either Jordan Howard or Kerryon.
Because if Kerryon does get cut, Stafford, they'll probably ask Stafford if he liked him in Detroit.
I don't think.
And if he did, then I could see him getting signed with the Rams out there.
I don't think he did, though.
Well, I'm just saying.
I could see like
the familiarity.
Here's another thing that you have to take in consideration. I could see them picking up Todd Gurley week 4 or later in the season and him being like totally rejuvenated and giving them at the greatest 3 great games where they win, right? And maybe he tailors off that. Like there's a lot of options.
I think the Todd Gurley thing comes with a lot of
bad. Yeah.
Because obviously he would probably love to be reunited with Matt Stafford, but at the same time, who knows what his relationship is with Sean McVay, Les Snead. That was not the cleanest exit
Not by any means. I don't think that's it could be any veteran running back that might be on the market. Maybe think about their Super Bowl run. They picked up someone that was pretty much written off, and he had a good playoff run. You could do that again in later weeks of the season.
CJ. CJ Anderson. All right, depth chart wise here. Let's start off, obviously, quarterback, Matthew Stafford coming over from the Lions. I agree with everyone. I mean, it makes him a Super Bowl contender. He's by far an upgrade over Jared Goff. I know that's Mark's favorite quarterback. But Mark, have you ordered your Matthew Stafford jersey yet?
I don't wear jerseys of other guys, but I'm pretty excited if he stays healthy. My only thing is, like, what if he goes down in week 3? I think that we could find ourselves at the bottom of the division, honestly. And yes, he's got a good track record, but like, what if the back flares up, or just it could be anything.
Even with playoff superstar John Wolford as the backup.
I think that there wasn't a lot of game film on him at that time. So I guarantee you every team is preparing for 2 quarterbacks this year.
I just think Matthew Stafford deserves it. He gave so much to Detroit, only got him to the playoffs one time. But
the dude is tough as nails. That's all I got to say. Like, if there's anyone that can endure the NFL at his age and what he gave to Detroit, he's going to be hungry. It should be a good relationship.
Yeah. The video of him that one game, I don't remember what season it was one of his earlier years, where he friggin' separated his shoulder after getting hit.
Yeah.
Went back in the game the next play and threw a friggin' touchdown.
I want to say it was against the Cowboys, but I shouldn't say that in case I'm wrong. But I really do think it was against the Cowboys.
No, it was the Browns. The Browns in Detroit. Yeah. It's crazy.
I'm excited. I just, as a Georgia fan, and the only thing I'm not excited about with the Rams is I hate their front office. I think Rusty should just be GM right now. That's just my opinion, but I'm excited, but it's a tough division. It's
Yeah. All right, running back. Now, this is probably going to be the longest thing on the Rams roster. So, Darrell Henderson, now the starter with Akers going down. They also have Xavier Jones as an undrafted free agent from last year. Didn't play with anyone, or played with the Rams, but didn't play on offense. 7th round rookie out of Maryland, Jake Funk, and then 2027 round pick with the Buck, Raymond Cowley. So, like I said, Jake Funk, I watched him in Maryland this past year. He's not terrible. It's just nothing really pops when you watch Jake Funk. He's a good guy, tough. I don't have his measurables in front of me, but he was a part of the Talia Tagovailoa game, and I'm blanking hard on who that game was against, that Maryland beat them 45-44 in overtime. But
I can't think.
I don't remember either.
I just remember it was hype at the time, and I had bet Maryland money line when they started coming back.
We were watching it together. I know exactly. Wasn't Penn State, was it?
What?
Wasn't Penn State, was it?
No.
Gosh, we were watching it right here. I remember.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's fine. But yeah, he was a part of that. But like I said, I think Darrell Henderson is fine. I think, they drafted him in the 3rd round. a couple years ago, 2018, I believe. Cam Akers was second round in 2019. I think
I have no problem with him.
he's a Memphis running back, and we know how they do in the NFL. So
I agree. You give him more of a load and see what happens.
it's just if he gets hurt, then there's an issue. But right now, I think they'll be okay. They're probably going to put him on ice, barely play him in the preseason, I would think. But yeah, they're going to sign someone eventually, whether that's during the preseason or right before the season, or like Mark said, possibly even first couple weeks in the regular season. Wideouts. Deshaun Jackson coming over from the Eagles. Who knows what he actually has left? I mean, he's 34 now, I believe. So he definitely fills the speed role that they needed. You know, after Brandon Cooks left. So,
you know, I got two things on Deshaun Jackson. Love him downfield. And if Matthew Stafford could come out in a post-game interview with his clothes on, everything's going to be okay. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go look that clip up because it's hilarious.
The other two wideouts I wanted to talk about for the Rams depth chart were two rookies, second-round pick Tutu Atwell out of Louisville, and seventh-round pick Ben Skowronek out of Notre Dame. I think both make the roster, you know, as long as they keep 6 and not 5, which most teams keep 6. So Tutu, I think, is going to, you know, both aren't going to do much this year because they have Van Jefferson in front of them and obviously Woods and Kupp and Jackson. But you know, I think Tutu's in a great spot. Deshaun Jackson's going to play there this year. Tutu's going to learn from him. And then I think Tutu is going to take over next season as their deep threat. Skowronek, I love him. I thought that was a diamond in the rough for Les Snead in the 7th round. Massive frame, 6'4", 200 plus. Can go up, be the jump ball guy that Matthew Stafford has always had in Detroit with Megatron and Kenny Golladay. He's always had a big guy, and Woods and Kupp aren't the biggest, especially Kupp. Kupp's not, he's like 5'10" or something like that. But Ben Skowronek, if he would get a chance, I think that Matthew Stafford would love having him on the field.
I mean, I have to reverberate what you're saying. I think that was two great pickups. And I would even talk about the 7th rounder even more. Like, I was in the stands when Book was throwing the ball up to him and he was catching it in Sanford. And I was like, this guy, you know, didn't get a lot of national attention and whatnot, but he went up and got some balls against 2 cornerbacks that are in the league now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great steal in the 7th round. And I do agree with you. I think that if Tutu can, you know, learn from Deshaun Jackson, I think he has a place on the roster going forward. And I think this all hinges on Cooper Kupp was really good before he got a knee injury. He had his knee injury. He came back and he was the same player, or people didn't think he was going to be the same player, and he had a great year. Is what are they going to do defensively against him? So is that going to open up Deshaun? Is that going to open up Woods? Is it going to bring in somebody that they just drafted? Because you have to throw more shade his way. Maybe you don't. I don't know, but I think they're in a good place from the wideout standpoint. I think that's what he does well as a coach, right? He can put his running back in space. He can put his receivers in space. So what do you do when people change things defensively? And who do you have in your back pocket?
Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about that in a little bit when we talk about Rams fantasy outlook. Tight ends, two things. Tyler Higbee is now the only starter. You know, they don't have a dual tight end system anymore. Gerald Everett's in Seattle, which we'll talk about. I got Tyler Higbee in. Well, actually, I'll save that. that goes into fantasy. But anyways, the other tight end I want to talk about is their third stringer right now, Bryson Hopkins, 4th round pick last year out of Virginia, I believe. No, Purdue, I think. I could be wrong. Because there's another guy that was Purdue that I might be thinking about, but no, I think Bryson Hopkins was Purdue, though. Anyways, I liked him coming out of there. I thought he was solid. I have no idea why he wouldn't be the number 2. Johnny Munt is the second guy right now, but I have no clue what they're gonna do behind Tyler Higbee. So
They've never been really strong on the tight end front. I mean, you think about Cook, and he was solid. He was solid for us, and then he went to the Packers, right? And Higbee came in, but you never had like a 1A and 1B. It was like, let's just fill this role.
yeah.
But I think now with a guy like Matthew Stafford as the quarterback, I mean, he had TJ Hawkinson there in Detroit, and he used him a lot. So I think that having a quarterback like Matthew Stafford is going to just elevate Higbee's play on the field.
For sure.
He had Ebron there for a few years, which I don't know if panned out really the way Detroit saw him, but he was still solid, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything to talk about with the offensive line. Same 5 guys coming back this year. And all their backups have been with the Rams. So don't have anything to say there. Defense, I don't have anything to talk about their starters, but I do have a couple guys backups that I want to talk about. Left defensive end, 3rd string right now anyways. Ernest Brown, the 4th, 5th round rookie out of Northwestern this year. I don't have much to say about him. I didn't really notice him too much on a Northwestern defense. The second guy is backup nose tackle Bobby Brown, the 3rd, 4th rounder out of Texas A&M this year. I knew a little bit more about. I saw him some on A&M this year. Again, didn't notice him too much though. So I do like their nose tackle depth though. Ashawn Robinson, Bobby Brown, and then Greg Gaines. That's a really good threesome at the nose tackle spot. Let's go to linebacker. Just have one guy, a rookie, 3rd rounder out of South Carolina, Ernest Jones. Again, another guy that I didn't notice a lot, even watching SEC football this past season. But a surprise as a 3rd rounder. I know he was rising a little bit in the pre-draft, but I just had not seen him that much. And then secondary, 2 corners, 4th round rookie Robert Rochelle out of Central Arkansas.
Yeah.
Another guy. The Rams just drafted all guys that I really didn't take too much of a notice to this past season, especially at Central Arkansas, because we didn't really start watching FCS until they had the spring season, and obviously he didn't play in that. So.
Must have had a good combine.
Yeah. I think, well, he did play, I believe, in the Trey Lance game that Central Arkansas played against North Dakota State this past fall. So the only other corner I want to talk about is Kareem Orr. They got him from the Titans. After the first 4 corners, their secondary is not their corner depth, anyways. After the first 4 is not that great.
That's why you got to be able to score some points.
Yeah. So they better hope that they can just go, just keep those top 4 rolling in nickel and dime sets, not have to use 5 or 6 corners this year.
Well, that's what their defense is built on, getting pressure. And I actually am scared about, okay, we get pressure. Well, what happens when you don't sack someone or you don't make them hurry? Do you have good enough linebackers in secondary?
Justin Hollins is a first year player. I believe the opposite of Leonard Floyd, but I couldn't remember who they had last season opposite of Leonard Floyd, because it wasn't Dante Fowler. We learned that in the NFC South show that Dante was already there in Atlanta in 2019.
Well, and Brockers was gone.
Well, he is a D lineman, outside linebacker, opposite of him.
Him a little bit. That's what I'm scared of. I think they're depending on the front line to do everything. That's what scares me after that.
Yeah. And then one last thing for the Rams, they do have a new long snapper, Matthew Orzech. Orzech, I'm not sure how you say it, but coming over from the Jags. He is the only long snapper on the roster. So, yeah, Raymond Calais definitely going to be their starting kick returner. That is almost set in stone, considering they have Darrell Henderson at that spot right now. So, fantasy. I caught myself, Chris. Almost turned the page. But fantasy-wise, Matthew Stafford, what do we think, Chris?
I think he's a serviceable starter. I think, like I've been saying in all these shows, he's the type of guy I would maybe target in one of those mid-rounds. Maybe he's not like the top tier of the second set of guys, but I think I think he's a top 12, especially in his new offense.
I agree. I love Matthew Stafford this year. I haven't shied away from it. I think their offensive line is pretty solid. He's going to get time to throw. He has a litany of receivers to throw to. If they can just get enough running game, which, I mean, he's used to that, though. They didn't have a running game in Detroit either. So he's used to just throwing the ball around, which wouldn't be a bad thing, especially in a better offense.
Mm-hmm.
So. He'd be a solid second quarterback. Like, would you pick him in your fantasy as your number 1 quarterback, though? That's the only question that I would pose.
I believe you could. I think he's a starting fantasy quarterback.
But like I said, I think he's more in like the 9 to 12 range. He's like one of the last starters on the in the league.
If you have solid running backs, wide receivers.
So running back, Darrell Henderson now is definitely elevated in draft rankings, considering he's a starter now, but it's
I think Henderson is elevated, but he's not where Cam Akers was. I think he's going to be a solid running back 2, maybe. But I think Cam Akers had a ceiling of being a running back 1, but I don't think Henderson will get to that point.
Yeah. I think Henderson could, RB2 probably is where he's going to stay for most of the season.
But that's right now. If they add another running back, his value goes back down a little bit. But
Yeah.
I still think he'll be the primary back, regardless of who they take. But
wideouts. Now, I have Robert Woods on every dynasty team I have. I traded for Cooper Kupp in one of my dynasty leagues this off season for 2 second-round picks, which I thought was the steal of the century. Because even though Robert Woods listed as number one, Cooper Kupp is going to get the most targets and the most receptions and receiving yards. So I think Cooper Kupp is a low wide receiver one because he does have to share the work with Robert Woods. But I think Woods is a wide receiver two through and through.
Yeah. I mean, that's all if Kupp could stay healthy. Obviously, I think he can, and he has the potential to be that. But also, we got to remember that he's got a new quarterback now. So I don't know. I just know that Goff liked the shorter curl route passes and stuff, and in the slot and all that. I think Stafford, he's used to throwing on the outside to the guys that are going deep or doing other routes other than the little slot slants and stuff. So I don't know. I'm not too sold on Kupp yet. But yeah, I do agree. I think he does have that wide receiver one upside.
Yeah, and I think even a lot of people are going to draft Deshaun Jackson late. I think he is a potential flex guy, depending on what their offense looks like, but I'm not touching a 34.
Staying away from him.
I think with a better quarterback, I actually think Woods and Kupp can play off each other more than they have in the past, if that makes sense. So I think that they're both going to get targeted a lot. I think that if we don't find somebody to sign in the backfield, that two of them, those two could have a big year if they stay healthy.
Tight end, all right. Tyler Higbee. So I, in my one dynasty rookie / veteran draft, I auto drafted Tyler Higbee because I didn't know it was my pick, and the 8-hour clock on the email draft ran out. But then I looked into it because I was like, oh crap, I gotta now drop Tyler Higbee, go get someone else as my backup tight end because I have Travis Kelce in both leagues. But I'm like, I researched it a little bit, and I was like, well, Everett's not there. He has Matthew Stafford, who, like Chris said, had Hawkinson in Detroit, who he loved. I'm like, maybe Tyler Higbee isn't the worst backup tight end to have. And maybe, just maybe, he could be a flex starter week in and week out for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think Higbee has the potential to be a starter, not necessarily because of his play, but because the tight end position is so thin. There's probably like 4 or 5 solid starters that what you're going to get, and then there's the rest of them. So I think Higbee is at the top of that rest of them category, and I think he can be a solid starter. I mean, I had him in one of my leagues. I forget if it was the Dynasty League or if it was our Keeper League, but I had him in one of our leagues, and he did pretty good for me, even with Everett being there last year. So I don't think he'll – like I said, I think he'll have a solid season. But, yeah, I don't know. I think he's definitely got the potential to be a number one, but I don't know if I would draft him as my number one.
Yeah. Defensively, the Rams are still top 5. Some people would probably put them top 3. It's just there's a bunch of guys that are starters that I'm not sure would be starters on other teams. Sebastian Joseph Day at left end. A'Shaun Robinson at nose tackle probably would be a starter on a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've talked about, Justin Hollins as a outside linebacker opposite of Leonard Floyd. I'm not so sold on him. Kenny Young, Micah Kaiser aren't the best inside linebackers, but they do their jobs. The secondary is fantastic. Jordan Fuller probably the weakest link there at free safety, but they did lose a lot in with John Johnson. There was another one that they lost. I'm blanking on who that guy was.
Colby.
Huh?
The other cornerback.
Was it Joyner or was he on the Raiders?
No, he was on the Raiders.
No.
I don't know. But yeah, they lost some secondary guys this offseason. So.
Mikael Roby
Coleman. Was he this offseason or last offseason though to the Eagles? I thought he was last year.
Was he? And he just signed with it. Is he? He's not with the Eagles anymore though, is he?
I don't remember.
I think he moved again, so it felt like last season.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, top
No,
five.
but I believe in the Rams defense as long as they have two of the best defensive players in all of football with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. As long as they have those two guys, their defense is going to stay at the top.
Kicker, Matt Gay. Who even knew that he was the Rams kicker, huh?
Hey.
I mean,
new face.
Well, he was with the black kicker.
I know, but it's still a new face. It's just still – we had an anchor back there, man. It's still a new face in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
They have
I'm not touching him because he's an unknown. But he might be one of those guys that that I might see halfway through the season and be like, okay, he's actually doing really good. And my kicker misses 3 field goals a game, so I need a new kicker. I'll pick him up.
I agree.
But
Yeah,
I'm not drafting him.
You also have XFL superstar kicker on their roster, Austin McGinnis, playing for the Dallas Roughnecks, I believe it was. So, who knows? It might be a competition in camp between Matt Gay and Austin McGinnis. Okay, let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks. Take it away, Chris.
Yeah. So I can't think of their whole schedule off the top of my head, but I did have them going 11-6, which I know probably sounds high to some people, but I feel like for the last 3 years or so, people keep writing off the Seahawks before the season. But then we all know of first half of the season, Russell Wilson, he's the MVP of the first half of the season. So I think they're going to have a solid first half of the season and be in contention and then kind of fall off there at the end. But like I said, they're still going to be 11-6. Record-wise, though, I think I have them going 3-3 in the division, which is the same as the Rams. But I can't remember who their other 3 losses were against that I had them going. But I think it was because they play the AFC South too. And I think they would – I think I had them losing to both the Colts and the Titans. And then I forget who else I had them losing to, but yeah, I had them going 11-6.
Yeah, I have one up.
That's tough.
I have one up. I have 12-5, just like the Rams. Differences 3-3 in division. Rams are 4-2. Week 1 in Indy. That's a win. Just like I had the Rams beating the Colts in Indianapolis. The Seahawks do it too, just because, like I said, I don't think Carson Wentz is going to be up to speed. Even with 2 home games, it's against the top 2 NFC West opponents in my mind. So
Look, guys, did their defense? My question is, their defense get any better?
Seattle.
No, if anything, it got worse.
And so that's hard for me to put them on a 12-5 pedestal. I firmly believe in Russell Wilson, right? But if you don't have a defense and your offensive line is getting in the backfield, something's about to break. I don't think they're going to be a bad team, but there's got to be someone in the division that isn't as good as last year. And I look at their team as a team that stayed stagnant. Like, is Arizona going to get – are they going to mature and get better? Is the 49ers going to have less injury and get better? And so I don't – I'm not looking at their schedule, but I don't see how they go 12-5 unless Russell Wilson is the MVP, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, like I said, at Indy week 1, that's a win. I have them losing to the Titans week 2, beating Minnesota in Minneapolis week 3. Week 4 is a loss at Levi Stadium against the Niners. They do beat the Rams. That is in Seattle at Lumen Field on Thursday Night Football week 5. Then they go to Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football and lose there. They beat the Saints on Monday Night Football. So that's 3 straight primetime games. That's ridiculous.
Where's that one at?
Seattle.
Okay.
And then they beat Jacksonville in Seattle. So 5-3 at the bye. Not the greatest, but this is where it really turns up though for Russell. This is where Russ is starting to cook coming out of the bye because they get a lot easier schedule. At Green Bay, that's a win. I know.
Who's under center, and I don't necessarily agree with the Vikings one, but that's where we all can have different opinions.
But I just think Russ can beat the Packers. They've shown that they can beat the Packers in the past. They beat the Cardinals in Seattle. They win at Washington. That's another very tough game. That's Monday Night Football. But again, it's Russ on primetime. It's
I know how he performs. That's why I'm saying it's hard to go against Russ.
Sunday Night Football, week 13. That's home against the Niners. That's a win. They win in Houston. At the Rams, that's a loss. Home against the Bears, that's a win. Home against the Lions, that's a win. And then they lose at Arizona week 18.
I actually like their schedule more than the Rams. I do.
Especially down the stretch. I mean, like I said, it gets easier. Houston, Chicago, Detroit down the stretch. That's those.
Golf, I don't know. Maybe Golf figures it out in Detroit. I don't know.
But yeah, key games for me. Those first 3 are key. Indy, Tennessee, Minnesota. I have them going 2-1. Then those 3 straight primetime games. Once again, I had them going 2-1. Home against the Rams, at Pittsburgh, home against the Saints. Thursday, Sunday, Monday.
They got a lot of good home games. They have a lot of good home games.
That's crazy that they go Thursday, Sunday, Monday. The next key game is that Packers game in Lambeau. That's
it all depends on who's under center. It all depends on who's under center.
Next 2 keys are their last 2 primetime games at Washington on Monday night and then home against the Niners on Sunday night. It's a short week against the Niners, but it's at home. So, and then I think possibly the Cardinals game at the end of the year could be key as well.
That could be the division. The Rams could be out of the picture. 49ers could be out of the picture.
Well, that's where I have the Rams winning the division because they play the Niners. And like I said, I have both going 12-5, the Rams winning it based off division record 4-2.
I like it. I like it.
So, depth chart wise for the Seahawks, not talking about quarterbacks, not talking about running backs. They're the same guys coming back. Wide receivers, though. Freddie Swain is the new number 3 wide receiver this year, possibly. 6th round pick last year. They lost David Moore in free agency to the Panthers. Like I said, it's possible that Freddie Swain is the number 3 wideout because they did draft Wayne Eskridge in the 2nd round out of Western Michigan this year. He could be the 3rd guy. Not sure. We'll have to see how those preseason reps work out and into the regular season. The other 2 guys I would like to talk about on their wideout group is Penny Hart, undrafted free agent last season, had 1 reception in 13 games last year, was primarily a special teamer. But Penny Hart coming out of I'm blanking. I can't recall. But anyways, is something in Georgia. Oh, Georgia State, I believe. Penny Hart played at. So
They had a potent offense at Georgia State. That doesn't always translate.
yeah, Penny Hart's small, really small, like 5'8", but super fast. And then the other guy, Cade Johnson, undrafted this year out of South Dakota State, played in the championship game. Or no, he didn't. No, he did not play in the championship game. Never mind. But anyways, yeah, Jackrabbit there. So, tight end, Gerald Everett coming in as the new starter. Greg Olson gone. Jacob Hollister gone as well. It is Gerald Everett, Will Dissly at the tight end spot. I like him there. Russ loves tight ends. So, doesn't use him as often as he used to, though, with DK and Tyler Lockett there now. So, offensive line, only 1 new starter. Gabe Jackson, who they got in a trade with the Raiders, solidifying that right guard spot. I liked that move. And then the other guy I wanted to highlight on the line is Stone Forsythe, their 6th rounder out of Florida this year, backing up Dwayne Brown at left tackle. Their offensive line isn't the greatest, but I don't think it's the worst either.
Well, we all know he has the legs to do different things.
Yeah. Gabe Jackson, Dwayne Brown, the centerpieces of their offensive line. I know Chris loves Brandon Shell at right tackle. Former Jet.
His favorite.
Defensive end. Now, the defensive line is interesting. I actually have 7 guys start here. Carlos, left defensive end, Carlos Dunlap. It's his first full season in Seattle after getting traded mid-year from the Bengals last year. His backup, Alden Smith, comes over from the Cowboys. Great year coming back off of 3 suspension seasons before that. And then the 3rd string at left defensive end, Darrell Taylor. He was a 2nd round pick just last year, and he's the 3rd string defensive end right now. So, we'll have to see how that works out. But that was interesting to me.
And I think that's interesting when you throw in, a new quarterback in the St. Louis Rams scheme and whatnot. So, and I do think that that's kind of an understatement for Seattle is they're going to be strong up front.
Yeah. They also, the 3rd string left defensive tackle, Robert Candice. I didn't star him, but, former 1st round pick for the Cardinals coming over trying to latch on with Seattle. right defensive tackle. Now, Brian Monet, first-year starter, undrafted in 2019, has played 14 career games, 4 in 2019, 10 last season, never started one. I don't think he'll be the starter because his backup on the depth chart right now is Al Woods, who opted out last year. Al Woods is a vet. He's been around the league. He knows how to play. I think he would get the start, as in my mind, anyways.
I don't see why not. I agree with that.
Again, it's going to be easier for those guys, regardless of who is a starter, being next to Puna Ford, probably the best run-stuffing defensive tackle in the league. So, new starter opposite of Carlos Dunlap is Kerry Hyder Jr. coming over from the Niners in his one season there. I really like him. He's so underrated. I mean, he was for years in Detroit, and then he got another backup job in San Francisco, and now he's finally going to be able to get a starting spot with the Seahawks. I don't think he is solidified, though. I do think they're still going to try to give LJ Collier a shot, being that he was a first-round pick just 2 years ago in 2019. He like Darrell Taylor, they just have not produced enough as, top pick. So they also have Benson Mayowa, Alton Robinson, and Rasheem Green on the defensive line, all names that people know. So I think the defensive tackle depth I don't like for Seattle, but the defensive end depth is very solid for the Seahawks. Don't have too much to say about the linebackers. New starter, because of the loss of KJ Wright at strong side, is their 2019 fifth-round pick out of Washington, Ben Burkervin. I remember him playing it in the Pac-12. Solid. He's definitely a new era style of linebacker. He can cover the pass very well, stuff the run. And I do want to point out as well, John Radigan, the third-string middle linebacker right now. He was my guy, if y'all remember, during the season out of Army. John Radigan was my boy. So he went undrafted this year. I hope he can make the Seahawks roster or someone else's. I love John Radigan. Secondary, corners. Akello Witherspoon coming over from the Niners. He is their new starter. The opposite is DJ Reed, who they also got from the Niners, but that was last season. Only started half of the games last year, but he will hopefully start all 17 this year. One of Chris's other favorite guys is their third-string corner, Pierre Desir, coming over from the Ravens technically, because he was with them during their playoff run. And I also put / the Jets.
There's a reason why he's been on 4 teams in 2 years.
And then the only other guy I have for the corners is their 4th-round rookie, Trey Brown, out of Oklahoma. What's crazy about that is that when people were talking about Texas-Oklahoma, I saw a clip on Twitter today of that game from this past year where Oklahoma upset number 22 Texas in quadruple overtime. And who was the guy that intercepted Sam Ehlinger? Trey Brown. So, yeah, that is the Seahawks depth chart. Those are the guys that I had pointed out anyways. A lot of guys. The Rams had the least amount of guys pointed out because they're returning most of their guys. So, NFC-wise, Russell Wilson, top 5 quarterback, top 3 possibly. Yeah,
if he can do what he does the entire season, he could be a top 3. But the fact that he plays MVP like in the first half and then drops out. That's why he's a top 5.
Yeah, the fantasy strategy when you're drafting Russell Wilson is draft him, right? Make sure you have a capable backup quarterback that you're comfortable playing, and then trade Russell Wilson at the trade deadline for solid running back / wide receiver.
I mean, he is my starting quarterback in our dynasty league. And I mean, I've played him pretty much every week except for his bye week. But I do have a capable backup, like you were saying, with Tom Brady. I know he's not the best fantasy quarterback, but Brady is still very serviceable. Other than that, though, I have Sam Darnold and Mac Jones as my other 2 quarterbacks on our dynasty league.
Well,
neither of which I'm comfortable starting. Obviously, Mac Jones isn't going to be a starter yet, and we all know how Darnold's been with the Jets. I still think he's going to be the same way with the Panthers. So I have no other option other than Russell Wilson, pretty much.
Sam Darnold's going to put that work in for you this year, Chris. All right. Running back. I love Chris Carson, man. Chris Carson, I feel like I draft Chris Carson every single year. He gets shit on every year by people, and then he produces. The only issue he has is fumbles, but I don't see an issue with it. I don't think he fumbles that much. But
the fumbles are, but also he's coming off the injury now, so we don't know exactly how he's going to be. I mean, I still think he'll be a solid running back. I like him just as much as you do, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go near him though because of the injury.
Yeah, RB2, I think, is where he's going to stay his entire career in fantasy. The issue that I have with Seattle is when Chris Carson gets hurt, it turns into a freaking committee. Because when he's not hurt, though, it's just Chris Carson. And then, you'll get a couple carries here and there from the other guys. But yeah, behind him is no longer Carlos Hyde because he's in Jacksonville now. But they have Rashad Penny, Travis Homer, and DJ Dallas, the same guys that they had last year. Not touching any of those, obviously. But I'm just saying, I hate when Chris Carson gets injured because then you don't know what to do. Especially in daily fantasy, it's like, bro, who do I pick from the Seahawks? If you need to, anyways. Wide receivers, DK. Wide out 1. Easily. I think he's not a top 5. I mean, I don't know. It's hard without, having all of the receivers in front of you. But
no, I don't think he's top 5 either. I think he's definitely a top 10 though. But
yeah,
I wouldn't put him in the top 5 category yet.
Yeah, and then Tyler Lockett, solid wide receiver too.
Mm-hmm. And he's also got wide receiver 1 upside too.
Yeah, depending on the week.
Yeah.
When Russ wants to throw him 3 touchdowns and 300 yards in one game, right?
Yeah.
That was the dumbest game ever. I can't with that game. I don't think Freddie Swain or Dwayne Eskridge has any value. I don't think they use the third wide receiver enough. I think they'll use Gerald Everett more than the third receiver. So Dwayne Eskridge definitely, though, dynasty-wise, take a chance on him in your last pick if you don't have other options that you like better. Because, the Seahawks aren't going to be able to keep DK and Tyler Lockett. They already signed Tyler to an extension 2 seasons ago, I believe it was. And DK's due up in 2 years. So, but yeah, Gerald Everett, I don't like him. like I said, Russ doesn't use the tight ends as much as he used to. So I don't really like him. I mean, you can get away with him as your backup, but I think there are better options.
I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent, but you said he doesn't use them like he used to, but that was also because he hasn't really had a decent – he didn't have a decent tight end last year, I don't think. He didn't really have that great tight end. Yeah, but I was not high on Greg Olsen. So I definitely think that Gerald Everett coming over, I think, will help the Seahawks in the passing game a lot. And I think I don't think it'll be at the level that it used to with the Seahawks with their tight ends, but I think it'll be better than it has been.
Defense. Nope. Next.
What a fall from grace that they've had. They used to be the defense, and now they're bottom of the barrel. Don't touch them. Like, I mean, I don't even know if I would touch them in like the scenario where I needed a defense for a week. I don't think I would go near them.
When they play the Lions.
Oh.
Or the Bears. Or what about the Texans when they play the Texans?
Yeah.
All right. The kicker, Jason Myers. Now there's a solid pick for you. I know you're still salty, Chris.
Uh-huh. That's Mike McCagnon for you. He wouldn't re-sign him.
Yeah, Jason Myers is definitely a starting fantasy kicker. Once again, though, like I said, it's hard to put like a top however many without having all the players in front of you. So we'll leave that for our kicker / special teams show. Kicker, defense, special teams show.
Yeah.
But yeah, starter, Jason Myers is. Okay. The San Francisco 49ers. We're almost there. 2 teams down. We've been on the air for 2.5 hours. This is great. It's Mark's fault. It is Mark's fault. So I had the Niners going 10-7.
I'm wrong.
I had the Niners going 10-7, 3-3 in the division, splitting all three. Week 1, that's a win. That's at Detroit. that's a win. They lose at home against the Colts. That is Sunday Night Football. They go back-to-back, actually, Sunday night games. In Seattle, that's a loss. And then, intriguing, this is not me being a homer. At the Eagles, that is a loss as well. Or no, hold on. Never mind. I got the schedule wrong. I hate when they do these printout schedules, dude. Some teams go across, some teams go down. And how I did it, I started going across, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. But anyways, restart on the Niners schedule. Week 1 is a win at Detroit. Week 2 is a loss at Philly. Philly always plays well against the Niners. I don't know why it is, but they always do. They beat them last year. That was in San Francisco, too. Sunday Night Football, home against the Packers. That's a loss. Once again, the Packers are just a team that the Niners can't beat. They've proven that. Back-to-back NFC championships. Week 4, home against the Seahawks. That is a win. They lose at Arizona. Week 5. So bye week is 2-3. Not looking good. It gets better though. Well, it doesn't right away, but it eventually does. Week 7 is Sunday Night Football, home against the Colts. That's a loss. Week 8 at Chicago. That's a win. They beat the Cardinals at home. They beat the Rams at home on Monday Night Football. They win in Jacksonville. They beat the Vikings in Levi's Stadium. Then they lose at Seattle on Sunday night. Beat the Bengals in Cincy. They beat the Falcons in San Fran. They lose at the Titans. They beat the Texans at home, and then they lose at the Rams week 18. So 10-7. Key games at Philly week 2. Like I said, they don't play well against the Eagles. The next week as well, Sunday Night Football, home against the Packers. They don't play well against them. At Arizona week 5, that's a tough loss going into the bye week, but I think that's a key game. Sunday Night Football against the Colts week 7, that is a loss. Monday night against the Rams week 10, that is a win. At Seattle week 13, that is Sunday night once again, a loss. And then Thursday Night Football against the Titans in Nashville week 16, that is a loss. And then, week 18 as well at the Rams, helping the Rams win the division.
Yeah, so I'm higher on the 49ers than you are, because I think that they can get back to their Super Bowl form from 2 years ago. But I think that they go 12-5, tying with the Rams. I think they go 3-3 in the division. I think they lose to the Packers, and then they lose to Tennessee. I think it's the same 5 losses that the Rams have. So I don't know who would win the division in my scenario. I'd have to actually look at the tiebreakers and all that, but they literally tie with the Rams in record and who they lose to. So yeah, I think that they're going to be a really tough team to play this year.
Yeah. So depth chart wise, not really any new starters. There's two new starters, one on offense, one on defense. But we'll talk about backups. That's fine. Quarterback wise, first round pick, 3rd overall, Trey Lance, obvious backup. See how Garoppolo plays. Nate Sudfeld is the 3rd string coming over from the Eagles this offseason. We don't need to talk about Josh Rosen because he was already on the Niners. Running back wise, Trey Sermon is the new backup to Raheem Mostert, and he is their 3rd rounder out of Ohio State. They also brought in Wayne Gallman from the Giants this offseason. Jeff Wilson Jr. still there as well. Wideouts, Richie James is the new 3rd guy. I say new with a question mark because I feel like there was someone else there last year, but I can't think of it. Yeah. It was Kendrick Bourne. That's right. I have it written up at the top of my thing. Yeah, Kendrick Bourne was the 3rd guy last year, and so Richie James steps in there. Really young receiver group, except for one guy, which we'll talk about. Jalen Hurd is the new wide receiver 4. He's their 3rd round pick from 2019 out of Tennessee. They also brought in Trent Sherfield from the Cardinals this offseason. And they re-signed Mohamed Sanu. So he is the elder statesman in the top 6 receivers by far. No one's even close to how old Mohamed Sanu is. So we'll see if he makes the team or not. I don't know. But because they have other veterans that are vying for that last spot or two. Travis Benjamin coming over from the Chargers, and also Benny Fowler coming over from the Saints. Those 3 vets, I think, are really fighting for one spot, probably. Unless they want Travis Benjamin as the punt returner, but they have guys that can do that.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's Benjamin's spot, though, to lose. I just, in my personal opinion, I think he's the best of those 3 guys. But yeah.
It'd be interesting because, Benny Fowler is not that old either. I believe he's 26, 27. So he's older than all the other 5 in front of him, I believe. But it'd be interesting to see if they want to keep an older guy like Benjamin or Sanu who are in their 30s, or if they want to keep a semi-older guy in Fowler who is, I don't know. I like Fowler in terms of just overall production. What he did in Denver, what he did in New Orleans.
Yeah.
As a 6th wide receiver, you could get worse. So they also do have Kevin White still on the roster. He's still floating around there. River Craycraft was there last year. Nasimba Webster, as well as former 3rd-round pick, actually, Jawan Jennings out of Tennessee. Not going to make the roster. So they do have a new, technically, backup tight end. I don't know if you would call him the new backup tight end or not, because he was somewhat playing that because Jordan Reed is now gone. Ross Dwelly officially steps into that role. I mean, I think Ross Dwelly is already kind of the backup tight end. But offensive line-wise, like I said, 1 new starter on offense. That is at the center position. Alex Mack comes over from the Falcons. But yeah, veteran guy. Their offensive line is very solid, I would say. Laken Tomlinson probably the weak link at left guard, but even that is not that big of a deal. The 2 new backups at guard are Senio Kelemete coming over from the Texans to back up Tomlinson, and then Aaron Banks drafted in the 2nd round out of Notre Dame to back up Daniel Brunskill at right guard. Defensively, defensive line, the backup for Javon Kinlaw is new. It's Maurice Hurst coming over from the Raiders. Also, DJ Jones at the other D tackle spot. His backup is new. Zach Kerr coming over from the Panthers, formerly of the Cardinals as well. Linebackers. Now, this is another team that their depth at linebacker is just trash. They have a new starter at Sam. That is Samson Abukum coming over from the Rams. But their 3 guys behind Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner, and Abukum are all undrafted. Demetrius Flanagan Fowles, undrafted last year. Aziz Al-Shair, undrafted in 2019. And Jonas Griffith, I'm not sure when he was undrafted, but I know he was.
Yeah.
So, unproven, to say the least, are the backup linebackers for the Niners. So maybe they could use Michael Kendricks. Maybe.
Maybe.
Secondary wise, Ambry Thomas drafted in the 3rd round out of Michigan. He's their 3rd corner right now. I have a bunch of safeties marked here. Tavon Wilson comes over from the Colts to back up Jimmy Ward. And Wilson's backup is Tony Jefferson coming over from the Ravens. 2020 opt-out as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think he opted out because of injury, though, not COVID. I believe it was injury. The strong safety spot, 3rd and 4th strings, Talanoa Hufanga, 5th-round rookie out of USC this year. And then Tarvarius Moore, actually, 3rd-round pick in 2018, all the way down in 4th-string strong safety. So, yeah. That is the Niners depth chart. Fantasy-wise, now the quarterback position is interesting. I have never liked Garoppolo in fantasy, so I would not touch him. Trey Lance, though, dynasty. Definitely, if you need a quarterback, is an option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
running back. Go ahead, yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm with you with Garoppolo. I'd maybe draft him as my backup, but I'm not going for him as my starter. And well, a big reason why is because of Trey Lance, because we don't know how things are going to shake up. Obviously, if Garoppolo performs very well, then Trey Lance probably won't see the field. But if Garoppolo, it's actually not even if Garoppolo performs well. It's if the team performs well. Because if the team comes out the gate and has a losing record by like week 6 or 7, I could see them doing the switch. And then you like drafting Garoppolo is a waste of a pick for whoever does it. So that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't draft him maybe as my backup, but I probably will stay away from him.
Running back wise, again, it's sort of a weird position to look at fantasy wise, because Raheem Mostert is a starter, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But how much work is Trey Sermon going to get, though? That's the question that we don't know the answer to, because he's a rookie and we don't have any data on what the workload will look like between those two. Plus, even Wayne Gallman and Jeff Wilson could get some carries as well. So I wouldn't feel comfortable. I think I would feel comfortable with Raheem Mostert as being, your RB2 possibly, but I think I'm more comfortable on him being a flex player.
Mm-hmm. All 4 of the running backs there for San Francisco are great, but that's the problem, is that they're all there.
Yeah.
So we don't know the workload even for Mostert, because even though he's the starter, he has been hurt, and so they probably will take some of the workload off of him and divide it between those other guys. And normally in this kind of situation, you could say you could handcuff them or whatever, but I don't think you could even do that here because there's too many options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once again, though, their other Trey Sermon is definitely draftable in Dynasty. I think he could, once Mostert's contract is up, or even before. I mean, I really liked Trey Sermon, especially what we saw from him down the stretch for Ohio State was just ridiculous what he did to get them into the college football playoff, first off, win the Big Ten, then win their semifinal game. And then he got hurt in the national championship, and wideouts, Debo and Brandon Ayuk. I think Debo is a wide receiver too. I don't necessarily like Ayuk, but I think you could flex him if you need to.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as you with the receivers. I don't really like any of them, but yeah, I think Deebo Samuel probably will have the best fantasy season, but take the word best lightly because I still don't think it'll be that great. Because the 49ers just aren't an offensive team, especially in the passing game. So I think that their defense will keep them in low scoring, close games, so they won't have to do too much. And so I'm on the same page with you though. I think that Deebo Samuel can be a wide receiver too, but I would still not want to take either one of them unless I was to do it for the flex.
Yeah, it took me till now to actually the train wasn't changed. But yeah, Matthew Stafford, DK Metcalf, Trey Lance, Kyler Murray as the NFC West preview. Tight end, that's easy one. That's the easiest fantasy spot to talk about on the Niners, that's why we won't spend too much on it.
He's a top 2.
National Tight End Day, started by George Kittle, is
Tight End University.
Yeah, George Kittle is probably the most fun person to watch and to listen to. Dude, when he has National Tight End Day on NFL films, it's just the sound bites are just hilarious.
I'm still so mad though, because I had drafted him in our dynasty league when we first started it. That was before he was George Kittle. So I was like, oh, who's this no-name scrub guy? So I cut him to pick up somebody else. And then he becomes the George Kittle that we know. So I had him on my dynasty league team. And then he became the top 2 tight end in the entire league.
Yeah. I think I have him. I don't know. I don't remember. I think I might have had him and Kelsey, but I don't know. Yeah, definitely top 2. Him and Kelsey are in a league of their own. Defensively, I like it. I like the Niners defense. I think they're bound to bounce back. I don't think they're, top 5. I think
they're top 10 though.
Yeah, I think they're a starting caliber defense, especially playing a 4th place schedule this year.
Yeah, because they I think they finished behind the Cardinals.
Yeah, and I mean the AFC South isn't the hardest division to play against. So, the other their fill-in games are the Bengals, the Jags, and they play the NFC North. Bengals, Jags.
No, the Jags aren't a fill-in game because they play the AFC South.
Bengals, Falcons, and Eagles.
So they probably go, at the very least, they probably go 2-1 in those 3 games.
Yeah, which that's what I had them doing. So
I think I had them going 3-0, but I can see them losing that Philly game.
All right. This is another easy one. Kicker, Robbie Gould. Consistent as consistent gets.
Mm-hmm.
And he has been one of the higher scoring fantasy kickers the last couple seasons too. So definitely Robbie Gould can go off as a top 5 kicker probably.
Yeah, I think he's a top 10 kicker, so I would draft him.
All right, let's get to the Cardinals finally here. Chris, would you like to go?
Yeah, well, I don't remember their schedule off the top of my head, but I had them, despite all their additions and everything, I'm still not ready to jump on the Cardinals bandwagon. So I had them finishing in last place in the division, but they still had a great season in my thing. They still went 10-7, 3-3 in the division, which means all 4 teams finished 3-3. And then I think I had them losing to Tennessee and to the Colts. They beat Jacksonville and Houston. And then they played the NFC North, right?
Yes.
So they lose to the Packers. I think I had them beating the Lions. And then I had them beating the Bears and losing to Minnesota. And then their filler games are Giants, I believe.
No.
Or no, the Cowboys.
The Cowboys,
Yeah.
Panthers, and Browns.
And I had them losing to the Cowboys and the Browns. And I don't remember what I had them doing against the Panthers, but I think I had them winning that game. But overall, like I said, it was a 10-7 record for me for them.
Dang.
Beating the Colts.
I'm not as high on the Cardinals. I have them right around where they were last year. They went 8-8 last year, missed the playoffs. I have them at 8-9 this year. Even with an improved roster, I think the division is tough. Their conference, those 3 games that we just talked about, their fill-in games are tough too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, week 1, losing at Tennessee. I do have them beating the Vikings. I'm rough on the Vikings, and I had the whole NFC West beating them. They win in Jacksonville week 3. They lose at the Rams. They beat the Niners at home, though. Losing at the Browns. They beat the Texans at home. They lose to the Packers on Thursday night. That's in Arizona. They lose at the Niners. Lose home against the Panthers. They lose at Seattle. So they're 4-7 at their bye week 12. They beat Chicago in Chicago. They lose on Monday night at home to the Rams. They beat the Lions in Detroit. They lose home against the Colts. That's a Saturday game. That's Christmas Day. And then they beat the Cowboys in Dallas, and they beat the Seahawks at home week 18 to get to 8-9. Key games, they're 2-4 in division. I didn't write it down because it didn't matter as far as the division race goes. Week 2 is a key game. They beat the Vikings. Also week 5, home against the Niners. They win that one as well. Week 8, Thursday night, that's the Packers game in Arizona. That's a loss. That week 10 against the Panthers in Arizona, that's a loss as well. I think that's another key game. Similar teams there. Monday Night Football, week 14, home against the Rams is a loss. That Saturday Christmas Day game against the Colts in Arizona, that is a loss. And then week 18 in Arizona, that is a win against the Seahawks to give the Rams the division.
Here would be my 2 questions, which I'm not saying that it's going to make their season win 10 or 12 games, but they have to improve on 2 things. Their culture got 10 times better. I mean, J.J. Watt is going to change your culture 100%. Like, he's going to be hungry. He's a hard worker. And their quarterback has not digressed in the league in his years in here. And so, in my opinion, their coach is going to get better. They're going to use him in space better. He should be hitting his targets better. And so, okay, you can stay complacent, but you would have to think they have to get a little bit better, whether that's a 1-game improvement or a 2-game improvement, especially if there's injuries to other teams in the division. Now, yeah. I'm not calling them world beaters, but I think those are the 2 things that you could look as positives. You're either going to stay the course or you're going to get worse, or you got to get better, right?
Yeah. The thing for me about the Cardinals is I was very high on them last year. I was high on Kyler Murray, the defense, DeAndre Hopkins, and they didn't produce. You know, Cliff Kingsbury just blew it up down the stretch.
I agree. Down the stretch was terrible. Kyler Murray, though, the first 4 weeks looked like an MVP candidate. So can you build off those first 4 weeks?
Yeah. Their offensive line I'm still not sold on, other than Rodney Hudson, who we'll talk about. Defense, I do like their defense. I really do. which we'll talk about. But so yeah, let's get into the depth chart now. New backup quarterback this year, Colt McCoy coming over from the Giants. Who was it? Brett Hundley, right? It used to be Brett Hundley, I believe, in Arizona. So
Old
yeah. So Colt McCoy comes over to back up Kyler Murray. I didn't really like that. I don't know. Running back wise, Kenyon Drake is gone. Chase Edmonds is the new starter. They also got James Conner from the Steelers. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, how the workload will work. So we'll have to see about that. Wide receivers, getting AJ Green from the Bengals. Yeah, I don't believe in AJ Green anymore. So, yeah.
No, I never did. I think if I were a Cardinals fan, I think I'd rather them re-sign Larry Fitzgerald again for another year.
Doesn't look like that's what they're going to do, though.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, I would have rather them re-sign Fitzgerald instead of signing AJ Green. Yeah.
Other receiver I have marked here, Rondale Moore, their second-round rookie out of Purdue. Electric playmaker. We'll see. Those guys typically have not worked out in the league as just general, dynamic guys like Cordell Patterson. Now, Cordell Patterson is the lone outlier where he's found his niche as a running back / receiver, as well as a kick returner. But Rondale Moore at 5'8", it's going to be tough, even as a second-round pick. I mean, like I said, he was just dynamic at Purdue in his 4 years there. But it's going to be tough in the league. Tight end, Max Williams is back as the starter this year. Dan Arnold is gone to Carolina. So even though they don't use tight end, Dan Arnold did have his best career year last year with, I think, 31 receptions. So we'll see. Max Williams has had his chances in Arizona. I mean, they re-signed him. They re-signed him a couple years ago. And then Dan Arnold took over last year. So I don't know. Offensive line, like I said, Rodney Hudson, the only new starter at center, coming in a trade from the Raiders, solidifies the pivot there for the Cardinals. His backup is a rookie, 7th rounder out of Penn State, Michael Manette. Solid there. I didn't really expect him to get drafted, but he did, so good for him. And then the only other new guy I saw was backup right guard to Justin Murray is your guy, Brian Winters, coming over from the Bills.
Good, stay there.
Well, he's definitely not going to get some Winters out there. I feel like that was a Mark joke.
Yeah.
All right, defensively, biggest one, J.J. Watt coming over from the Texans. Like Mark said, going to change culture. Solid addition there.
Yeah, he'll change the culture, but I don't know how much he's actually going to do on the field.
J.J. Watt, even on a bad season, can get 5 sacks at the minimum. 8 maybe, I think, is what he'll get. But Rashard Lawrence, first year starting at nose, 4th rounder in 2020 out of LSU. He only has 1 career start last year and 9 games played. Their first round pick this year, Zaven Collins, slides in next to Isaiah Simmons, back-to-back first round linebackers for the Cards. 16th overall out of Tulsa. I love Zaven Collins. I think he's going to do a little bit of everything: pass rush, cover, help in the run game. Their linebackers. I love all four of their starters: Chandler Jones, Zaven Collins, Isaiah Simmons, Marcus Golden. Fantastic starting four for the Cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondary-wise, Malcolm Butler coming over from the Titans to start opposite of Byron Murphy. They also got Darquez Dennard and Robert Alford from the Falcons. And then they drafted two guys, Marco Wilson in the 4th round out of Florida and Tate Gowan in the 6th round out of UCF. And then safety, backup strong safety to Jalen Thompson is Sean Williams coming over from the Bengals.
Yeah, they have a revamped secondary there, but I don't know how good it's actually going to be. They obviously lost their longtime starter there with Patrick Peterson going to the Vikings now, but yeah, I don't know. I don't really like their for the most part, I don't like their additions there in the secondary.
Yeah, a lot of veterans. I mean, we'll have to see how it works out though. And then big time, they got Matt Prater from the Lions. Not much to say about Matt Prater's resume speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantasy-wise here, Kyler Murray. Now, like I said, I was very high on Kyler last year. Did not produce as much as I thought, especially in the wins column. But I think being a dual threat, I think that still has value. So the top 7 quarterback.
Yeah, I definitely think that he has the potential to be a top quarterback, which is why I think he's draftable. But I don't know. I'm still not 100% sold on Kyler Murray because of the fact that he's been kind of inconsistent. Like I said, he can be one of the best. And I will take the chance on that. Like, I would take the chance on that. But I feel like he's a very boom or bust kind of player.
Yeah. Has to take the next step in year 3.
Mm-hmm.
Running back wise, I don't like it. Chase Edmonds, I think, is the safer bet. I think he can be an RB2.
Mm-hmm.
And we just don't know what James Conner is going to give us with the Cardinals.
You don't like your guy from Pittsburgh there, James Conner?
No. I trusted him last season, and he didn't.
Yeah, I was never a big James Conner fan, even when he took over for Le'Veon. So I'm not even going to consider him as an option. But yeah, I think Chase Edmonds, I mean, he's shown in the past, granted it was as the second running back / backup, but he's shown that he can produce. So I think given a higher workload, I think he can be a solid running back. I think he's definitely a running back too. But I don't really see him having upside as a 1.
Especially in Cliff Kingsbury's offense.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receivers. I love DeAndre, dude. D-Hop is the man. Probably still not wide receiver 1 because that's probably Devontae Adams, but top 3 wide receiver.
But now I'm sure you've seen the whole thing with him on social media, like contemplating retirement or whatever. Do you think he was actually serious about that, or was that just him blowing off steam?
I think it's just because he doesn't want to get vaccinated.
So, like,
but
if that wasn't what
we'll know. That's the thing, though. We'll know all this. Luckily, or should I say, hopefully, we should know how everything is worked out by the time that most leagues draft. So,
yeah, like obviously, if he decides to retire or whatever, that's a big blow to both the Cardinals offense and fantasy football. But I don't really think that was a serious thing that he posted. So yeah, I think he's definitely. I'm gonna just say he's a top 3 because I don't know. Like you said, Devontae Adams. We got to see how Julio does in the Tennessee Titans offense.
And you can't Michael Thomas up there anymore with his.
I was gonna say I can't even say Michael Thomas anymore.
But I think AJ Brown. I think AJ Brown will take a step this year.
Yeah,
with Julio there,
and even DK, we could kind of throw him in there too. So there's a lot of receivers there at the top, but DeAndre is one of them.
Yeah, and then what do we think about AJ Green? I know we both said we don't really like AJ Green that much. We'll have to see if he can play the whole year. That's the first thing.
Yeah. But he's never, as far as I know, he's never had a guy like DeAndre Hopkins opposite him.
Yeah.
I think for a majority of his career, he's been the guy. So, yeah, if he can stay healthy and stay on the field, he's essentially taking over the role of Larry Fitzgerald. Even though Christian Kirk is kind of elevating too, but I don't know. I just think that since AJ Green is the vet, if he can stay healthy and based on his resume when he is healthy, I think he'll be a solid target. But again, he's one of those players that there's just so many question marks with him. I don't think I would draft him. However, if he is drafted, I would say it's in the mid rounds and it's as the wide receiver 2 or maybe even flex if you can get him that way.
Yeah, I'm putting him as a wide receiver 3/flex right now. My issue with AJ Green in this offense is that him and DeAndre Hopkins are the same. They're both big jump ball types of guys. Now, they drafted Rondale Moore to be Larry Fitzgerald. That's exactly what they drafted Rondale Moore to do, was to be in the slot and get all the underneath stuff. But they also drafted him to be the speedster. So you got to do both. But don't even get me started on Christian Kirk, man. I was so high on him 2 years ago coming out of A&M, and he is just disappointed after disappointed season. Yeah.
The other thing too, though, with the Cardinals' offense with their receivers is, I mean, do they still double DeAndre?
Doesn't matter.
No, I know it doesn't really matter, but do they take that extra guy and put him on DeAndre, or do they spread them out and do the one-on-one coverage for everybody? Because they're not going to double AJ Green.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Let's see. Tight end, we're not drafting anyone. Max Williams, undraftable.
Yep.
The defense, now, I think this is a sneaky defense. Like I said, I love their linebackers. We have J.J. Watt. Zach Allen is underrated as well at the defensive end spot. The secondary is where it comes into question, especially at corner, where we have Malcolm Butler sliding into Patrick Peterson's spot. Buda Baker and Jalen Thompson are solid at safety, but it's the corners that are the issue. But I still think I don't think they're a starting defense right now. They're a fringe 13, 14 rank.
Well, I'm gonna say that they're top 20. Not saying that they're 18 to 20. I think that they are closer to what you said, like low teens. But I'm just gonna say top 20. Because to me, top 20 means that they are a rosterable defense. They are a defense that you can have as your backup, or if you do like a matchup-based defense thing, then yeah, I think they're good for that. I don't know if they are good enough for an every week defense, though. which is why I'm putting them in the top 20 category.
All right, and then Matt Prater, starting kicker. What to see, how the offense does, though, in order to make him a more elite kicker in fantasy.
Yeah. I mean, I think he is good, but and I know kickers' age doesn't really matter as much as other positions, but he's still, I think, one of the older kickers in the league now. And I don't know if obviously he has the resume as a big leg kicker and all that, but I don't know. I think I'd have to see with him. I don't know if I would draft him.
Well, the Cardinals love their old kickers because they have Andy Lee punting for them still. So, all righty, that is our NFC West predictions. I had Rams winning the NFC West 12-5, 4-2 in the division. Seahawks close behind at 12-5, 3-3 in the division. Niners in a wild card spot at 10-7, and then the Cardinals out of the playoffs 8-9.
Yeah, I think this is actually the most different that we've had these divisions so far. But we both had the Rams at 12-5 winning the division. Well, like I said before, I had the 49ers and Rams at the same record with the same wins and losses, but just for the hell of it, I'm going to say that the Rams would win. And then obviously the 49ers being 12-5 also would get a wild card spot. The Seahawks, I would have to look at my other division rankings and stuff because I forget. I think they might sneak in there too at 11-6. And then the Cardinals, yet again for the second year in a row, are just outside the playoffs for me at 10-7.
All right, so next Friday, we will have our fantasy running back rankings show. We're doing the quarterbacks on Monday's show, so we won't have as much news. Hopefully, I mean, training camp's starting up, so we might have news, but definitely will not be doing 3.5-hour shows anymore like we have been. So we'll have Derrick Henry talk new Rams starter Darrell Henderson next week, see where he slots in I don't know what we're doing, top 30 or whatever. So that is next week's show. Thank y'all for watching. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, FAApodcast.com as well. Check out all our shows there. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I'll try to get the the post out either today or tomorrow, and I'm also going to do an additional post, kind of just combining all the rankings that I sent you a preview of a couple days ago. So I'll get that out as well.
Fine work, my friend.